A small creature moves quietly beneath dense flowers, while a single bloom releases drifting particles above. The creature pushes upward through the blossoms, its head emerging as petals scatter around it. Nearby, a girl notices the floating bloom and reacts suddenly as it passes her view. She loses balance while riding, her body tilting as motion carries her forward uncontrollably. The vehicle lifts into the air, drifting above the ground as she struggles to steady herself and continue moving. Aka is carried upward as the structure lifts her along narrow beams, petals scattering. While the small creature follows closely, she lands softly and sneezes as a floating flower drifts near her face, regaining balance. Aka steps forward across wooden paths, carefully moving while petals continue to fall around her. She looks ahead with focus, raising her hand as she tries to orient herself and understand where she has arrived. The girl lifts off again, rising above the trees as the ground fades beneath her, and she struggles to steady her motion. A girl moves freely above the trees, lifted by the wind as leaves drift around her under a bright sky. Inside a quiet room, Aka sits near the doorway, lightly clapping as the breeze passes through. Her eyes slowly open, while someone watches nearby, and a small floating flower glows softly in the distance. She rises and shifts her posture, thinking as sunlight fills the space and the air remains calm. Aka leans forward, watching the drifting flower closely as it moves gently through the open air. Then Gino stands behind the counter, pausing his work as he calls out, noticing movement from above. He looks upward while holding an object, focusing on someone positioned on the stairs. After a moment, he signals calmly, allowing the situation to continue as the room settles. Aka appears on the staircase with a small companion, carefully making her way down step by step. She reaches the lower level, standing beside the man while holding onto the creature. Steady and composed, Aka gently extends her hand, presenting a small flower, while the man observes her with quiet attention. Up close, her eye reflects the blossom, capturing its shape as she studies it carefully. Silence follows as he examines the flower, while Aka sits at the table and begins eating. Standing nearby, the man holds the blossom and looks across the room as she continues her meal. Far away, another girl lands heavily after a ride, slowing down as she steadies herself on the ground. Inside the shop, Aka struggles after eating while Gino watches, noticing her condition as another girl stands nearby with determination. She declares her intention to travel, standing firmly as her resolve becomes clear. After a brief pause, Aka gathers small companions and prepares to leave, holding them closely. At the counter, Gino begins preparing food, deciding to support her plan from within the shop. He hands over rice balls, while Aka sits ready, considering how to carry them as she prepares for the journey. Gino watches Aka closely, recalling her promise, while she quietly finishes eating. Outside, the windmill turns steadily as another girl reflects on staying within sight of the cottage. Aka runs across the open ground, moving farther away while Gino remains at the doorway. Observing her departure, he stands still thinking about her small world as she continues walking toward the distance. Then Aka returns briefly, moving back toward the entrance, while Gino reacts, noticing her sudden reappearance. Stepping past the entrance, Aka moves forward again, while Gino remains still, watching her from behind. In another place, a girl reaches her destination and steadies herself beside her parked vehicle. Under tall structures, she takes a moment to observe the area as leaves drift around her. Across rough ground, Aka advances carefully, adjusting her pace with each small step. Meanwhile, the older girl continues onward, focusing on the path that leads toward the town ahead. Aka walks along a narrow path, thinking about hunger and emotions, while passing small animals and stacked barrels. Climbing upward, she moves carefully along steep stairs, continuing toward a higher part of the area. At a stop, she holds a small companion while another girl nearby observes the town with interest. Carrying a bag on her back, Aka continues forward, committing to her journey despite the difficulty. Higher up, she climbs uneven steps as an older figure watches from above. The surroundings showing signs of danger and isolation, Aka stops at the stairs. Realizing she can no longer see the cottage behind her, voices echo in her thoughts as she hesitates, standing still while considering whether to return. After a brief pause, she changes direction and moves through a narrow path, choosing a different route. She walks into a forest filled with falling petals, continuing forward, despite the unfamiliar surroundings. Through the trees, a hidden structure appears, partially revealed as she approaches deeper into the area. Aka runs forward with urgency, her pace quickening as she moves through drifting petals. From a distance, she reaches a wooden platform, while another girl watches, confirming the location. Relief follows as Aka secures her belongings and begins eating, regaining energy after the long path. She settles near a window, holding food while small companions remain close beside her. As she continues eating, her expression shifts, showing strain while she holds the food tightly. Aka sits and struggles to continue, holding the food while realizing she cannot proceed further. After admitting her limits, she reaches out from the platform, asking for help despite her hesitation. A condition is set as she listens carefully, understanding what must be done before she can receive support. With renewed determination, Aka runs forward again, pushing herself despite her small size. Above her, a large creature moves across the structure, approaching as the situation begins to change. Aka sits holding her food when a large shadow appears behind her, drawing close without warning. The creature moves beside her, lowering its body as she reacts with surprise and tension. It opens its mouth wide while Aka freezes, unable to move as the moment intensifies. Suddenly, the creature shifts away, its form changing as it pulls back from her. Afterward, it rests nearby in a calmer shape, while Aka looks at it closely, her fear beginning to settle. Aka sits beside the large creature, both facing forward, as petals fall quietly around them. Beyond the trees, a tall structure stands hidden, while the space feels distant and still. Turning closer, Aka looks at the creature and studies it, trying to understand its presence. The creature lowers itself as droplets fall, showing signs of hunger while remaining near her. Aka offers her food without hesitation, holding it out, as she notices there is still plenty to share. She sits beside the creature, quietly realizing hunger affects emotions, as petals continue falling around them. A black cat carries Aka across rooftops as petals drift down. The girl clings tightly while the cat moves carefully along narrow paths above the town. Earlier, Aka had nearly fallen while chasing blossoms. The cat caught her, and the effort left both of them worn from the climb. Hunger begins to slow Aka, and she decides to return home. At a quiet gate, they part ways. The cat remains still as Aka leaves. Both glance back once before continuing separately. Aka follows the black cat through a narrow street, asking about its home. She studies the cat closely, noticing its quiet behavior. A sudden idea forms as she considers its situation. Aka reacts sharply after realizing something important, her attention shifting to a possible problem nearby. From above, she slips and begins to fall. The cat quickly moves, using its tail to catch and steady her before she hits the ground. Unsafe, Aka leans against the cat, resting while it remains beside her. Aka invites the black cat to her home, hoping it will stay with her. The cat follows quietly as she leads the way. She returns to a windmill house and steps inside, calling out as she arrives. Inside, Aka greets a man who prepares dinner. The cat stands nearby while she eagerly waits for food. She helps carefully, focusing on small tasks. The cat watches as the man continues his work. While resting, Aka recalls getting lost earlier. The cat listens, staying close as she settles down. Gino listens as Aka finishes her story about the blossoms, reflecting on how her day turned out. The black cat sits beside Aka while she eats, showing the result of her small effort to help. Gino considers her words and recognizes the cat she mentions. The animal remains nearby, quiet and attentive. Outside, Aka recalls the cat's presence, focusing on its tail as something unusual. She notices the cat lacks one, reacting with concern while it stays calm beside her. Gino listens as Akaka explains the cat's situation. The black cat stands nearby while she finishes eating, still under watch. After the meal, Aka lies down as if concluding her task. The cat remains close, steady and attentive. Outside, the quiet town reflects the end of the day. Gino acknowledges her effort and considers the outcome. He pauses in thought, weighing what should be done next about the cat. Finally, he observes the cat's calm nature, deciding it poses no harm and can remain for now. Gino prepares tea while Aka watches from the window, still focused on the cat's presence in the house. The windmill stands quietly outside as the evening settles, and Aka appears content after the day's events. Gino considers Aka's request and the cat's situation, weighing whether it should stay for the time being. As he reflects, the cat calmly pours tea, showing quiet composure that draws attention. Soon, the cat stands among them, settled into the space, while Gino accepts its presence, without concern. The black cat sits quietly inside the cafe while Gino considers its presence. Aka watches from nearby, waiting for his decision. After eating, Aka feels satisfied and rests, while Gino reflects on her habits and the situation. Energy returns to her, and she quickly heads upstairs, eager to continue the day with the cat. The cat follows slowly, climbing the stairs, while Aka thinks about giving it a name. Reaching the upper floor, the cat pauses as Gino and Aka observe, studying how it fits into their home. Upstairs, the black cat suddenly reveals an unusual presence behind it. Aka stays close, while Gino watches from below, unsure of what he is seeing. Aka happily gives the cat a name, pleased with her choice. The cat remains still as she celebrates the moment. Gino observes quietly, noticing how much Aka enjoys herself. Elsewhere, concern grows as Aka is seen talking, as if someone is always with her. The idea forms that the companion she sees might not be visible to others. Gino listens as the situation is explained, considering the idea that Aka's companion might only exist in her mind. Aka remains cheerful, holding her cup while showing no concern about the explanation. He reflects quietly, easing slightly as the mood in the room settles. The black cat stays close to Aka, observing her as she continues to enjoy herself without worry, from a distance. She smiles and plays, while the others remain uncertain about what they cannot fully see. Aka's bond with the black cat becomes clear as others reflect on how often it protected her during the day. Gino looks out over the town, realizing the environment is dangerous for a child like Aka. The steep cliffs and narrow paths show constant risk, even with some protection in place. Seeing this, Aka remains determined, placing herself forward with resolve as she takes responsibility for staying safe. Gino sat at a small table as a young girl approached, her presence calm yet unfamiliar. A closer look revealed his cautious attention. The girl's arrival stirred questions, and her movements suggested purpose beyond a simple visit. She explained her reason through steady actions, indicating preparation and duty. Nodoka Deidai revealed herself as a guardian of young leaves, newly assigned to the town. Her posture showed humility and resolve. Afterward, Gino stepped into the cafe alone, reflecting on the encounter and the quiet change it brought. Nodoka greeted Gino at the cafe window, her expression bright as she ordered a simple morning set. He responded calmly, observing her with quiet curiosity. She introduced herself again with formality, explaining her assignment. Gino accepted the situation, recognizing her role as something official, yet unusual. Seated together, Nodoka showed nervous focus, admitting it was her first task. Gino listened, noticing her lack of experience. Her actions became clumsy, revealing uncertainty. Gino continued preparing coffee, allowing her to adjust. Later, he examined the situation alone. Still unsure what her duty truly meant, Nodoka began explaining her duty, describing children on the island who required guidance and attention. She outlined her work visiting homes, helping children learn and grow through simple activities. The task sounded gentle but required consistency. Gino interpreted her explanation in practical terms, connecting it to something familiar. The idea became clearer as he reflected on her role. Doubt crossed his mind as he considered her youth and ability. Nodoka hesitated, struggling to define herself properly. After a pause, she settled on a simple answer, accepting her role with quiet certainty. Gino offered quiet encouragement, while placing the meal before Nodoka. She accepted the gesture with renewed determination. A sense of responsibility settled as she prepared to face her task. Gino continued his routine, observing the calm day outside. The ordinary setting contrasted with the unusual situation. He guided her to the terrace, suggesting she enjoy the season. The open space felt gentle and welcoming. Nodoka relaxed while eating, warmth surrounding her as she slowly regained energy for what lay ahead. She sat on the terrace, deciding to return each morning. The quiet place gave her a sense of direction and calm. A small spirit appeared, causing minor trouble around the table. Nodoka reacted slowly, trying to keep control of the situation. She realized her mistakes, noticing simple things she had forgotten. Doubt began to affect her confidence. The spirit's condition worsened, unable to eat despite hunger. Sudden movement, startled her as the situation grew unstable. She faced the problem directly, realizing her duty had truly begun. The spirit leaped across the terrace, drawing Nodoka's attention as she watched carefully from below. Gino observed as Nodoka tried guiding the spirit. Her response remained simple, offering a solution despite her forgetfulness. The spirit reacted, showing signs of recovery. Nodoka noticed the change and began understanding what was needed. Relief followed as the spirit regained energy and ate freely. Nodoka remained nearby, quietly monitoring the outcome. With calm restored, Nodoka accepted the moment and the spirit's presence, gaining confidence in her role. Nodoka observed the spirit closely, noticing small differences and questioning her understanding. The moment revealed her uncertainty about details. She tried to adjust, aiming for a more proper approach. The idea of maturity settled in her mind, despite her flaws. She held onto that goal with quiet determination. After finishing the meal, the calm returned briefly. Nodoka and the spirit seemed at ease in the quiet setting. Soon, her forgetfulness surfaced again. She hurried off, realizing her challenges would continue as part of her duty. The spirit struggled again, its condition unstable. Nodoka watched closely, sensing something deeper behind its behavior. Doubt overwhelmed the smaller figure, who questioned their own flaws. Nodoka observed the worry, recognizing a familiar weakness. She stepped in with a simple solution, correcting the mistake with calm action. The situation slowly began to improve. Nodoka offered quiet reassurance through her presence. The spirit settled, supported by her steady effort. With a plan in mind, she guided the next step. Her actions showed growing confidence as she continued her role. The small figure returned inside, trying to follow instructions while Gino observed from a distance. Nodoka stayed nearby, watching carefully. She leaned closer to the spirit, offering quiet reassurance. A gentle understanding formed between them. Nodoka lifted the child, noticing confusion again. The problem persisted, but she remained patient. She guided the child step by step, preparing a simple method to help. The task became more organized. The written notes appeared clearly, listing basic actions. Nodoka confirmed the plan, turning uncertainty into steady progress. Nodoka completed the notes and arranged them carefully on the board. She checked each step, ensuring everything was ready. She guided the child to review the tasks, encouraging steady progress. The process felt clearer and more manageable. The child turned the cards one by one, realizing more had been done than expected. Confidence slowly returned. Each flipped card revealed simple achievements. The small actions gathered into visible progress. Nodoka presented the finished board proudly. The result showed effort turned into something tangible, strengthening both their resolve. She showed the finished board to the child and the spirit. Both looked at it with growing interest and surprise. The child celebrated the small achievements, realizing the notes helped overcome forgetfulness. The effort brought visible results. Gratitude overflowed as the child expressed relief. The simple method had restored confidence. Nodoka reacted with quiet surprise. Seeing the strong response, the moment confirmed her actions had meaning. She embraced the child gently while the spirit stood nearby. A new beginning formed as her role became clear. Then Nodoka moved forward with light steps, carrying the start of a new story inside a shop. She and the others observed new figures. Another child appeared, introducing a different role to follow. The child acted with bold energy, declaring a goal to protect. Nodoka watched, recognizing another task forming. Limits became clear as the child admitted small ability. Nodoka listened, understanding the need for guidance again. She accepted the moment with calm confidence. A new responsibility began, continuing her journey as a guardian. Nodoka stood at the edge of town, looking toward a wider world. The path ahead stretched beyond what she had known. She asked for agreement, ensuring the child was ready. The small figure hesitated but stayed close. They began walking together, moving forward, step by step. Nodoka guided gently, allowing growth to come naturally. The child responded with energy, accepting the idea of searching and learning. With the spirit beside them, Nodoka embraced the moment. The three continued together, ready to face what lay ahead. The child held Nodoka's hand, showing trust and quiet determination. Nodoka noticed the change and paid close attention. She corrected herself, properly stating her role while guiding the child forward. The bond between them became clearer. Moving ahead together, Nodoka accepted her place beside the child and spirit, ready to support them as their journey continued. A quiet song drifted from the windmill. Nodoka recognized AKA's voice but not the words. Kurosha nuzzled her gently. From below, Gino looked up, listening closely to her melody. Kurosha listened as AKA sang in her invented language. Nodoka closed her eyes, smiling. Gino stood still, moved without knowing why. The tune reached them all, soft yet full of meaning. After breakfast, Nodoka thanked Gino and prepared to leave. The weather held steady. AKA shouted back cheerfully. With the windmill spinning above, their journey to find new friends had begun. Just as they stepped outside, the rain began to fall. AKA sighed quietly. Nodoka smiled calmly, undeterred. Kurosha beeped once. Their adventure would wait, but their spirits stayed steady. Kurosha led the way, helmet secure. Nodoka followed, holding her coat closed. AKA stayed close, eyes wide. Together, they descended the steps, trusting their path despite the steady rainfall. As Nodoka admitted her unease, AKA listened quietly. She reached up and held Nodoka's hand. Their steps were unsure, but they matched, both learning, both growing, side by side. AKA looked up with steady eyes and spoke clearly. Nodoka froze. It was the first time she had heard her own name from AKA. Her heart filled quietly with warmth. Nodoka realized AKA had been brave for both of them. She squeezed her hand gently. With a soft voice, she asked AKA to turn. Something unexpected followed them in silence. They turned to find Riposino completely out of view. The cliffs, rooftops, and winding paths stretched endlessly ahead. Nodoka grinned. AKA gasped, clutching her chest as excitement replaced hesitation. AKA shouted with joy, her steps full of purpose. Nodoka beamed beside her. Kurosha followed, puzzled by the noise. Their journey had truly begun, guided by courage and hope. Nodoka caught her breath while AKA ran ahead. Kurosha slowed, ears drooping shyly. Rain poured steadily as they reached the next shelter. A figure quietly waited beneath the hanging cloth. A new girl stood above them, silent in the rain. Nodoka panicked. Kurosha pointed. AKA blinked in surprise. Their unexpected encounter began with concern rather than greetings or smiles. AKA stood frozen, wanting to help. Nodoka tried a trick instead. She dangled candy and spoke cheerfully. The girl looked for a second. A start, small but promising. Nodoka moved to tactic 2. She hugged Kurosha with exaggerated delight. The new girl stared harder. AKA wiggled, uncertain. Everyone waited. One step from her could change everything. AKA climbed the steps in stealth, peeking and hiding. With quiet steps and big breaths, she leapt out to surprise the girl. The reaction was instant. Their first real exchange. The girl stared in disbelief. AKA denied it shyly, then nodded. The silence grew heavy. Then came the spark. Suspicion wavered. Emotions stirred. Something honest had finally reached through. Nodoka panicked as the platform wobbled. AKA nodded seriously, waving and pointing to coax the girl down. But her timid gestures only deepened the confusion. The girl didn't budge. Kurosha launched himself forward without hesitation. He landed beside the girl, startling everyone. The platform wobbled dangerously. Nodoka shouted. AKA panicked. But Kurosha stood firm, ready to face the moment. Water splashed high as the platform collapsed. Kurosha, AKA, and the girl landed safely in the trees below. Soaked and stunned, they looked up at what used to be home. Rain poured in streams as the girl declared her move. Kurosha blinked, drenched. Nodoka watched as she revealed a basin. Whatever came next was clearly part of her plan. Nodoka dashed toward the curtain with determination. Kurosha watched silently. AKA gasped as she declared her dream. The rain poured harder, but her eyes sparkled with purpose and excitement. Nodoka sprinted forward, ignoring the danger. AKA shouted in panic. With unwavering resolve, she leapt into the waterfall's path. Chasing her dream with full force, no fear, just heart. As Nodoka fell, Kurosha leapt into action. He caught her midair, lifting both girls with power and grace. AKA held on tightly, her heart pounding from the sudden flight. Kurosha soared higher, gripping the girls safely in his arms. Rain poured around them like a curtain. The girl below watched wide-eyed, overwhelmed by the daring rescue unfolding above. Kurosha stood firm atop the stone ledge, cloaked in rainfall. AKA and Nodoka watched silently, the air still. Something important was about to happen, and no one moved. The rain slowed, the waterfall paused. Everyone took quiet steps forward. Nodoka reflected in silence. Kurosha explained the weight. AKA exhaled deeply, then suddenly struck Kurosha's back with determination. The girl asked for his name. Kurosha reached out, and they shook hands. She smiled gently, repeating it aloud. Nodoka watched, surprised by the calm between two new friends. Kurosha thanked everyone as his dream was fulfilled. Nodoka silently noted the moment. AKA sat relieved. Her first mission with friends successfully completed in the most unexpected yet warm way. The three of them knelt under the wide morning sky. With stern expressions and heavy voices they apologized. Behind their formality, a small girl clenched her hands, brimming with determination. Yuran introduced AKA with his usual confidence. Nodoka gave a reassuring smile. AKA took a breath, stepped forward, and spoke. The girl before her replied quietly, her shyness filling the space. Nodoka walked AKA to her teacher with calm steps. Questions came quickly. AKA listened. Nodoka smiled gently. She felt like a guest in a world where everything still felt new. Nodoka spoke of the island's charm while Yuran led the way. AKA listened quietly. Though far from home, she began to sense something gentle growing in the air around her. AKA began a quiet game of steps and pauses. Each move was watched closely. Shy glances turned to tiny smiles. Yuran kept pace, umbrella steady in hand. AKA paused, staring at the quiet girl holding a snack. Nodoka called to her gently. Together with Yuran and Kurosha, they approached the station. AKA's first train ride would begin. As Kurosha praised his tail, Yuran noticed something strange. Nodoka approached gently, asking him to stay still. With quiet care, she braided his hair, then smiled. Aka followed her closely. Yuran admired his new braid with pride. He smiled and offered friendship. Nodoka thanked him warmly. Eka watched in surprise. As they walked to the station, something inside her quietly shifted. At the gate, Nodoka used a leaf to pass through. The path to the platform felt steep but welcoming. AKA followed with questions, her eyes curious and hands gripping her dress. AKA plucked a leaf and swiped it with care. Nodoka explained the rules. Yuran showed it wasn't needed, but smiled anyway. Kurosha followed last, quietly impressed by the strange gate. Nodoka led the group across the station path, her voice bright. Yuran followed with steady steps. AKA clutched her chest with wonder. Ahead, the train approached with rhythmic rolling sounds. The train released a burst of pressure as it stopped. AKA froze in amazement. Her eyes widened, her voice shaky with awe. Yuran nodded proudly, sharing in her genuine excitement. The train rolled forward along the narrow track, vanishing toward the tunnel. Voices cheered behind it. Their journey had truly begun, carried by excitement, trust, and the promise of discovery. Inside the train, Nodoka reminded them to stay quiet. But AKA lost balance and tumbled forward. Yuran darted after her without pause, his eyes sharp. Everyone turned at the sudden commotion. The train rattled gently while Nodoka sighed. AKA and Yuran had stopped listening entirely. She stood tall, smiling sharply. With a playful challenge, she invited them to face her properly. Nodoka explained the rules clearly. Stand firm. No steps. The one who remained standing would win. AKA Yuran and Kurosha braced themselves as the train swayed with a steady rhythm. With candy on the line, Yuran shouted his entry. AKA froze in place, face serious. Nodoka smiled knowingly. Kurosha watched them both as the train rocked gently beneath their feet. Yuran stayed focused, legs firm. The train twisted sharply. Nodoka stumbled and lost her stance. Yuran teased her without mercy. AKA clapped in awe, while Kurosha watched the game unfold silently. The train's rhythm continued. AKA focused hard, eyes forward. Each clack of the wheels made her shift. A sudden sway threw her off balance. Yuran braced. Nodoka watched, quietly amused. AKA steadied herself after nearly falling. Her eyes sparkled. She realized something. By watching the front of the train, she could sense the turns. Yuran leaned in, listening with curiosity. The train leaned into another turn. AKA's method worked. She and Yuran stayed standing. Nodoka watched with pride. As the train straightened, they cheered together. Their first small victory felt huge. After their win, Yuran turned to AKA with serious eyes. He sensed hesitation. Nodoka stepped back quietly. AKA's hands trembled. Yuran gently asked what had been on her mind all day. Yuran stepped forward, voice calm but firm. He spoke of his father's wisdom. AKA stared, heart racing, clutching her doll tightly. The silence around them filled with unspoken trembling words. AKA trembled, her cheeks flushed deep red as words barely escaped her lips. Everyone leaned in, she stammered, voice cracking. Please be my friend. The air tightened around her hope. AKA finally shouted, voice cracking through the silence. Please be my friend. The train echoed with surprise. Eyes widened, mouths opened. Then joy burst out like sunlight crashing through windows. AKA's shout echoed, then softened into a gentle smile. Joy bubbled in her chest. With beaming pride, he declared her words clear as day. Friends, a moment forever etched in heartbeats. Darkness swallowed the train car, making AKA flinch and imagine monsters. But even shadows couldn't scare her long, not with her new friend gripping her hand, standing firm beside her. As the light returned, relief sparkled through the windows. AKA and her friend peeked out, wide-eyed, then burst forward hand in hand toward whatever awaited them at the next stop. As they burst into the light, hand in hand, something breathtaking emerged ahead. Eyes widened. Hearts paused. Whatever it was brilliant and unknown had captured them completely in that glowing moment. AKA pointed toward the window with wide eyes. She whispered about rainbows as the storm faded. Riri clenched the flower tightly. Hope wasn't far now. They pressed closer to see. As the train curved out from the tunnel, a full rainbow ring filled the sky. AKA and Yuran gasped. Cheers rose around them. The view was worth every step. As the train neared its destination, Yuran and AKA leaned out, stunned by the view. Nodoka smiled proudly behind them. They clasped hands, realizing they had become true friends now. Nodoka gathered them close as the train climbed higher. She pointed down, smiling warmly. Yuran and AKA looked below with wide eyes. Nodoka asked if they understood. They nodded together. The train crested the final curve. Below, a city shaped like a dream unfolded. Yuran gasped, AKA pointed in awe. Nodoka smiled softly as Neo Venezia welcomed them with sunlight. Yuran followed the map with determination, music in his ears. He crossed the bridge, imagining AKA and Nodoka amazed. His adventure was finally going exactly how he planned it. A man suddenly rose from the water with a sword. Yuran froze. The calm look on his face made Yuran panic. He was sure Gino was a trained killer. Yuran bolted down the path without looking back. He whispered to himself in fear. AKA's cat stared as Yuran yelled that Gino was a hitman. AKA spotted Yuran near the barrel and rushed to him. Without thinking, she hugged him tightly. Nodoka watched from the porch. AKA asked for a hug too, smiling gently. Nodoka knelt beside them, her arms around both. She noticed their warmth and thought about how the children had grown close since the outing. AKA clung to her happily. They walked outside, the wind warm and steady. Nodoka was surprised Yuran came alone. He explained the taiko gave him courage. AKA cheered. Nodoka listened, quietly impressed by his effort. Yuran stared as Gino approached with fresh fish. Gino greeted AKA and Nodoka warmly. Yuran grew tense, unsure if Gino remembered him. He quietly backed away and started thinking. AKA explained Gino's pond fishing trip. They all sat inside the cool shop, enjoying the quiet. Yuran watched Gino's calm movements, still unsure if he was truly safe. Yuran hid outside, planning fast. He feared Gino was too strong for Kurocha. But with his taiko drum ready, he took a breath and prepared to protect everyone. Yuran beat his taiko loudly, gathering attention. AKA and Kurocha joined in with claps. Together, they made a loud rhythm, echoing through the path. Yuran felt stronger with each strike. Their makeshift dance finished. Nodoka praised them while suggesting something to cool off. The group agreed quickly, excited by the idea. Yuran stayed quiet, still watching everyone closely for danger. They walked toward the hidden spring. AKA spoke cheerfully. Nodoka noticed Yuran lagging behind. He quietly crept forward, eyes sharp. Even now, he stayed alert, ready to act if needed. The group arrived at a quiet pond. Nodoka admired the peaceful view. AKA called out to Yuran, who approached carefully. He asked to speak with AKA alone, eyes serious. Yuran explained his suspicion about Gino. He insisted the man's skills were too precise. AKA looked shocked but unsure. Yuran reminded her of the clean fish cut he witnessed earlier. Yuran panicked more. He told AKA to follow him. They climbed into the pond, hiding behind rocks, convinced they needed to stay out of Gino's reach to stay safe. Yuran scolded AKA for being late. Kurocha lifted both kids easily. Gino appeared nearby. Yuran screamed again. He couldn't believe the hitman was this close to them once more. Gino approached calmly, unaware of Yuran's fear. Yuran and AKA screamed louder. Nodoka chased after them as they ran. Kurocha stayed behind, blinking slowly, unsure what had just happened. Yuran pounded the taiko, calming himself. Nodoka explained the area's history. They crossed a bridge. It was once built by dreamers who wanted to create a peaceful home together. As Yuran beat his taiko, Gino explained the district's history. They looked over the edge. Gino pointed to the water below, saying something important was waiting down there. Gino told Yuran the ruins below were once built with purpose. Yuran listened closely. Gino's tone had changed. He invited Yuran to witness something their ancestors left behind. Gino lifted Yuran with care and tossed him into the water. Yuran panicked, but Gino reassured him. The deep ruins became visible beneath the surface as he sank. Yuran drifted through the sunken ruins, surrounded by fish. The quiet scene below felt peaceful. Time had stopped here, and he could sense the place's long-forgotten purpose and care. Back above, Gino reflected on the moment. Nodoka thanked him kindly. He explained that her sincerity moved him. He simply wanted to treat her feelings with the same weight. Yuran relaxed in the water beside AKA. She reminded him how kind Gino truly was. Kurosha added gently that Gino's scary face hides a thoughtful heart. Yuran quietly agreed. AKA explained Gino's choices. He wore the acorn hat and bow tie so others felt at ease. Yuran stared quietly, realizing how much effort Gino made for everyone. Gino lowered his hand slowly. Nodoka watched him. Yuran's voice trembled as he called out, moved by what he learned. His earlier fear faded, replaced with growing admiration. Kurocha shouted with joy. Nodoka smiled. Yuran laughed out loud. He admitted Gino was amazing. The group relaxed by the water, warmed by trust and the quiet end of day. After Yuran bravely reached the springs alone, AKA made a request. She wanted to be today's guide. Nodoka agreed, and their new trip began with everyone visiting Yuran's peaceful home. AKA led the way proudly. Kurocha called her captain. She tried touching flowers but couldn't reach. Yuran waved from afar. Nodoka said they'd be late and followed with a smile. AKA prepared her butterfly dance. Kurocha shared that AKA had no parents. Yuran stayed silent. Nodoka looked down gently as the sound of the taiko continued in the background. AKA sat quietly, then smiled and said she had Gino. Nodoka watched her. AKA wished she had Yuran's taiko. Kurocha reminded everyone to follow their dependable captain. Nodoka appeared in a light uniform. Yuran ran up excitedly. AKA proudly declared she arrived alone. Everyone praised her. Kurocha commented on Nodoka's clothes. Nodoka noticed how thoughtful that was. A loud engine roared. Yuran's father arrived with a cheerful welcome. Nodoka greeted him kindly. The group entered the house, ready to enjoy the day as honored guests. Yuran's father arrived warmly, asking for a hug. Yuran shouted back, refusing. Nodoka thanked him kindly. The kids had plans. With a loud taiko beat, Yuran dashed to respond. During snacks, Yuran made a treaty. No stealing food, but his father took a bite. Yuran protested. AKA tried to help. Gino stayed quiet. Nodoka smiled, watching their funny moment. The kids headed out. Yuran's father let them go with a warning to stay in sight. Nodoka agreed. AKA and Yuran ran ahead, ready to enjoy their playtime together. Yuran began the challenge with focus. He poured sand into the mold. With a firm motion, he flipped it. The shape came out perfectly. AKA and Kurocha were amazed. AKA wanted to try too. Yuran taught her to start small. They worked side by side, tapping and sliding. One by one, sand molds appeared. Their project slowly grew. AKA proudly added more shapes. Kurocha noticed the layout and guessed it was a shop. Yuran looked surprised. AKA confirmed it, saying it was a cake store for everyone. AKA welcomed everyone to her cake shop. Yuran and Kurocha joined in with nervous voices. Together, they created a cheerful greeting as visitors stepped into their handmade store setup. A guest delivered pistachio chocolates. AKA left to gather more supplies. Yuran watched her go. Kurocha remained at the shop, ready to take care of things in her place. Visitors arrived one after another. Kurocha handled the shop calmly. Nodoka and another woman complimented the effort. They were surprised to find such a warm and charming place here. Nodoka and her friend admired the cakes. Kurocha stayed quiet. Nodoka gently asked if something was troubling him. She kindly requested one cake, calling him baker's man with a smile. Nodoka thanked Kurocha warmly. The group walked away, enjoying the peaceful visit. Meanwhile, AKA chased after something in the distance, eyes wide with focus, determined not to miss her goal. Yuran and AKA spotted a star-shaped ornament. Yuran couldn't reach it. AKA puffed up her cheeks, ready to try. Yuran warned her, worried it was too dangerous. She stepped forward. Yuran's father pulled up on his bike. He asked Yuran to ride. Yuran refused, saying hugs were off limits. The bike waited. Yuran hesitated but couldn't ignore AKA's situation. Yuran noticed aka was chasing the pinwheel again. His father understood right away. If they worked together, they could help her. Yuran nodded, determined. The plan was set. Yuran climbed aboard. With full speed, they rushed down the path. The pinwheel fluttered above. Yuran shouted, asking aka to wait. He wasn't giving up on her now. Aka kept chasing the pinwheel as it drifted. Yuran's father and Yuran sped toward it. They arrived just in time. Aka looked up as petals floated across the air. Yuran reached out and secured the pinwheel. He called out that now aka could spin at any time. She stood still, speechless, as the petals spun gently around her. Aka clutched the pinwheel tightly and whispered thanks. Behind her, Yuran and his father smiled proudly. The wind passed softly through the path they had all traveled together. Aka and Nodoka waved goodbye after their visit. Kurocha stayed quiet, watching the sandcakes left behind. The pinwheel turned slowly as the breeze picked up along the quiet path. Nodoka shared what Kurocha had told her. Yuran's mom had been kind when she visited, aka listened quietly. They both agreed Yuran's parents were truly thoughtful and kind people. As they walked, aka looked up and spoke softly. She didn't have parents. Nodoka replied gently. The wind carried her words while the pinwheel turned again in her hands. Aka jumped into Nodoka's arms. Nodoka held her tightly. Aka reminded her that even without parents, she still had people. That truth felt warm between them both. Kurocha and Gino were included in that circle. Nodoka smiled. They hugged close. Nodoka suggested they return home. Aka lit up, realizing it was time for dinner. Aka hoped dinner would be cake. Kurocha followed as they walked back through the glowing streets. The hillside homes shimmered quietly. It felt like the day had ended just right. Gino washed up in silence, then stood before the mirror. He practiced his smile again. It didn't work. Outside, he sighed, thinking he just couldn't seem to improve at all. Nodoka looked down at Onobori town. She had arrived in a new place. The protective Norin surrounded the floating land, keeping the residents safe from the unknown skies above. This was Nodoka's first time working far from home. She walked forward with purpose. Suddenly, wind rushed up around her as a large airship approached for landing. She steadied herself, watching the craft descend. Her job was to protect the children here. That role gave her a name spoken quietly by others, guardian of the young leaves. Nodoka smiled to herself. Today, she would finally meet the third child she had been assigned to. With confidence, she stepped out, ready to begin the day. The heat was strong. Everyone felt it. Gino stepped outside and brought something refreshing. The kids lit up when they saw watermelon. He reminded them not to give up. As they got excited for snacks, things took a sudden turn. The watermelon slipped. Everyone froze. It rolled straight off. The kids cried out. Gino looked helpless. Nodoka rushed in to report a missing child. Gino stayed calm. He asked her to sit and eat first. She hesitated, then slowly relaxed as he prepared a plate. While Nodoka ate, Gino explained he already heard from the mother. The girl had just arrived. Nodoka looked over and spotted her quietly entering with books held to her chest. Nodoka watched the girl introduce herself politely. Her name was Verdi Marley. She bowed firmly. From what Nodoka had heard, Verdi was smart, quiet, and especially fond of reading. Verdi explained she came early to make friends. She worried not about others, but herself. Her stern face scared others. She tried hard to control it, but always failed. Gino gently asked her name again. Verdi repeated it quietly. Gino admitted his face scared people too. Verdi cried softly. The others noticed and began reacting with nervous sympathy. Verdi decided to leave early, waving goodbye tearfully. Nodoka and Gino looked on as aka-san returned. She had said goodbye proudly, even if it confused the others at first. Aka panicked, thinking she would turn into a watermelon after swallowing a seed. Verdi and Yuran froze. Gino tried to explain calmly, but chaos had already begun unfolding quickly. The kids kept panicking. Verdi lectured with a serious face, calming the room. Gino watched Yuran and the others, noticing how much smaller and livelier the children had become today. Seeing the heat's effect, Gino focused on hydration. He packed Yuran and the others tightly for safety. Though snug, it helped. Nodoka quietly ensured everyone was secure and cared for. Verdi explained calmly that eating watermelon seeds would not change anything. Yuran hesitated, but her worry faded. Everyone relaxed. Verdi remained quiet, sensing something else bothering Yuran deep inside. Verdi's serious expression concerned the others. She stepped outside without a word. Nodoka and Yuran followed, puzzled. Verdi had heard something before. A comment about her face lingered in thought. As AK spun around joyfully, Verdi sat alone thinking. The others soon cheered again. Yuren smiled, relieved. Verdi stayed distant, unsure how to change the way people looked at her. Verdi noticed the group looked tired. Yuren admitted they were searching for a cool spot. Verdi stepped forward and offered help, determined to prove she could guide them somewhere better. With steady hands, Verdi examined the pinwheel, then pointed the way. Nodoka, Yuran, and Aka followed, curious. She walked ahead silently, letting the spinning blades confirm her direction without doubt. The group entered a corridor filled with spinning pinwheels. A breeze passed through. Verdi quickened her pace. The others smiled. For the first time, she felt useful among new friends. They entered a tall chamber lined with spinning pinwheels. Yuran and Aka gazed up in awe. None of them had seen this place before. Cool air drifted down steadily. Verdi confirmed the breeze above. Nodoka nodded. They began climbing the long ladder, one by one. Aka hesitated, then followed. Curiosity pushed them upward as the wind whispered encouragement. At the top, they discovered a massive flying ship. The engine roared as it hovered. The children stood still, unsure if they were welcome or simply intruding on something big. The children reached the highest platform, amazed by the view. Their journey had led to a tall cliff where wind rushed upward through the tower's spiral structure with force. A powerful stream of wind pushed through the structure. Gino explained it was called the Rising Wind Dragon. The group stood still, watching the air lift water into the sky. Yuran realized the name made sense now. Verdi looked calm. Gino's silence suggested he knew something. Nodoka turned to him, asking if he already understood this place's true purpose. Verdi quietly revealed she had created the path of pinwheels with her mother. The others were surprised. Verdi smiled slightly, proud of what she helped build through effort and care. Gino suggested everyone introduce themselves. Oran spoke first, confident. Aka-san followed nervously. Nodoka introduced herself and Kuro. They all turned to Verdi, curious about the girl who guided them here. Verdi stood still, declaring her name. She explained the land was once called Mars. Nervously, she asked for friendship. Her voice trembled as Yuran and Aka-san watched in stunned silence. Yuran and Aka-san confirmed the name of the planet as Aqua. Together with the others, they gazed below. This place, built by wind and water, promised a peaceful future ahead. Verdi arrived earlier than planned, gripping her suitcase with both hands. She checked her list again. Alone on the bench, she began to wonder if she had come too soon. Verdi clutched her note, uneasy about the man nearby. Her first sleepover felt less exciting. She imagined the worst, scribbled a message, and wondered if she had made a mistake. Peeking from above, Yuran spotted Verdi's panic. She called his name in alarm. He jumped in with loud energy. Verdi whispered concerns, pointing toward the man who still stood watching. Yuran froze when Verdi said kidnapper. They both stared. The man adjusted his glasses, unaware of their thoughts. Yuran pulled Verdi aside, whispering quickly while sneaking glances toward the stairs again. Verdi stayed close to Yuran, still unsure. He spoke confidently, gripping her hand. He promised to protect her. She glanced at the man again. His face looked calm, not dangerous. A voice called from above. Verdi looked up as her friends appeared. Yuran smiled wide. Verdi stood quietly, watching everyone gather. A new feeling began to grow inside her chest. Nodoka led the way, as Kurocha followed beside Aka. Verdi walked behind them, suitcase in hand. With everyone together now, she felt ready to see what the day held. Nodoka led them through the corridor. Verdi followed closely, still unsure. Yuran questioned their direction. Kurocha remained silent. Nodoka only smiled, guiding them toward a destination hidden behind the building. The group stopped in front of an old train. Nodoka proudly introduced it as her home. Verdi blinked. Aka gasped. Even Yuran paused, surprised by the strange but cozy sight. Everyone stepped inside with growing curiosity. Nodoka explained how the train was repurposed. Verdi looked around, slowly smiling. It was unusual but warm. For the first time, she felt excited. Nodoka reminded them to wash up. Verdi waited while Aka took her time. Kurocha watched quietly. Yuran rushed through with excitement. The hallway echoed softly as they cleaned and gurgled. Verdi wiped her face carefully. The others gathered, ready to move. She stayed behind briefly, still cautious. Then, with a breath, she stepped forward, eager to see Nodoka's special room. The door opened wide. Everyone stepped inside together. The room was clean and bright. Verdi's eyes widened. For the first time all day, she smiled without worry or doubt. Yuran jumped on the bed with excitement. Verdi looked around slowly. Kurocha stood beside her. The room felt calm and warm. Nodoka handed them barley tea, smiling with both hands. Verity hugged her pillow and sat beside her things, aka stayed close to Kurocha. Nodoka welcomed them all inside. Everyone listened. Yuran began showing off his packed items with pride, aka looked unsure as she checked her bag. Nodoka asked if anything was missing. Verity sat quietly. Yuran nodded with confidence. The sleepover was beginning, and everyone had finally arrived. Verity displayed all her packed items. She had prepared for anything. Yuran brought only essentials, claiming it was enough. The others listened. Each person had their own way of preparing. AKA had brought many plushies and one change of clothes. Verity stared in disbelief. Yuran questioned her choices. AKA insisted they wanted to come. Everyone watched the growing pile in silence. Nodoka stepped in to help. She offered towels and toothbrushes. Verity blinked as her worry faded. Everyone had different habits. Nodoka made sure no one felt left out or unready. Nodoka welcomed their things for the night. Verity listened quietly. Yuran admitted he wanted to stay with friends. Verity realized she felt the same. It was something she had hoped for. Outside, Yuran showed off his ribbon. Verity watched curiously. AKA tilted her head. Nodoka laughed gently. The ribbon was attached with tape. Yuran nodded proudly, not seeing any issue at all. Verity stepped forward with confidence. Nodoka smiled as Verity offered help. Kurocha stayed beside them. Everyone gathered around. Verity raised her hand, ready to fix the ribbon without any trouble. Nodoka explained the tape could come off with soap and water. Verity nodded. Yuran listened carefully. They moved together, following Nodoka. The next step of the evening had begun. The group entered the bath area. Nodoka gave instructions. Yuran hesitated. Verity carried her towel and watched quietly. AKA stood beside Kurocha. It was a new routine for them all. With gentle help, the ribbon came off. Verity stayed near Kurocha. Yuran relaxed in the water. Nodoka smiled as everyone settled in. The evening felt calm, full of quiet comfort. Verity noticed the floor shifting beneath her. She looked at Nodoka, unsure. The house began to move. Water splashed slightly. Everyone paused. Nodoka reassured them. It was normal for her home. Nodoka explained her house traveled by rail. Yuran leaned over the bath edge. Verity sat still, listening. Kurocha stayed quiet. The thought of a moving house made everyone more curious. Nodoka stood beside the bath and spoke softly. Her house moved often, but every piece remained special. Verity watched her carefully, understanding why Nodoka cared so much for this place. The train rolled forward beneath the sky. Inside, the group finished their bath. Nodoka handed towels. Verity stood beside Yuran and AKA, realizing she felt calm, clean, and truly included. Verity looked around at her friends. This was her first real sleepover. She had worried before, but not anymore. Everyone smiled. It was simple, warm, and better than expected. The train moved on quietly. Verity thought of her mom. She no longer felt scared. This new journey had just begun. She whispered to herself that everything would be all right now. As the bath continued, they shared thoughts. Verity's help with the ribbon was praised. Yuran thanked her cheerfully. The water was warm. The train moved steadily along its usual path. Verity was called wise. Yuran was known for strength. AKA was surprised at her nickname. Laughter followed. Everyone had their place. Verity looked around, feeling included in something that mattered. Nodoka smiled, called dependable. Kurocha was named the protector. They all listened as the Grove train was praised. Verity knew this was more than a trip. This was her beginning. Nodoka raised her voice proudly. Verity, Yuran, AKA and Kurocha listened. Together, they made a strong team. Everyone smiled in agreement. Verity's heart felt full. The Grove train rolled on. Verity stepped forward, splashing lightly. AKA followed with a grin. Their voices echoed. Together they shouted with joy. The train curved through trees. Everything felt right. The day was still theirs. Verity stepped out slowly, holding her towel. The train began to move again. Yuran, AKA and Kurocha watched from the other side. They waved gently. Verity quietly smiled and waved back. Nodoka returned by scooter. She asked if anyone had visited. Yuran and AKA shook their heads. Kurocha confirmed it. Nodoka smiled. It seemed someone she expected had not arrived yet. Nodoka signaled them to move. Yuran stepped back. AKA stood near Kurocha. Nodoka began docking her scooter. She worked quickly. The others watched with curiosity. Verity leaned forward to see better. The train now showed 3 cars. Nodoka explained she was not the only one living on the Grove train. Verity stared at the label marked Senpai, wondering who it was. AKA stood at the entrance, eyes wide, as Kurocha quietly watched. Nodoka stepped forward with grace. This was the house where everything began. She was ready to introduce someone important. Verity nodded shyly as Yuran questioned her. Yes, she had met Nodoka. Her presence was strong. AKA squeezed her sleeves tightly. They were all eager to greet Nodoka for themselves. They rushed to the room, but Nodoka was gone. Disappointed, they gathered at the table. Kurocha brought dinner. AKA smiled faintly, still thinking about the woman who changed her world. Verity sat beside AKA as Nodoka opened the lunchbox. Kurocha and the others waited calmly. Nodoka carefully placed the food. The warm sun made the moment feel just right. Everyone gathered. Nodoka called them to begin eating. Kurocha joined the circle. Laughter filled the air. Yuran tried to relax, though AKA had already taken his lap like it was hers. Verity watched AKA quietly. Nodoka offered a seat, but AKA sat on the ground instead. She mumbled about something called airhead. Verity sighed. AKA really was in a world of her own. Verity asked what an airhead was. Nodoka explained it gently. AKA listened with a puzzled face. Yuran gave his version too. Each answer made her feel a little more unsure. Kurocha quietly watched them joke. AKA felt embarrassed. Nodoka reassured her, saying some people just have a warm nature. Yuran hesitated but agreed. Verity nodded. It made AKA smile again. A long yawn broke the moment. Kurocha stretched. Nodoka noticed the time. Night had come. The group slowed down. They prepared to rest, letting the calm of evening settle around them. Verity thought deeply. Nodoka was smart. Yuran was strong. She looked at herself. Was she just an airhead? The question lingered as she faced the others with quiet determination. Verity held up a handmade board with pride. She called it her persistence board. Each morning, she wrote tasks and flipped them when done. Everyone gathered to see how it worked. AKA asked where she bought it. Verity smiled and said she made it. The train moved along. Nodoka looked on, impressed. For once, Verity didn't feel like an airhead anymore. Verity and the others praised Senpai. They described her sharp eyes and sudden exit. AKA listened quietly. She hadn't met Senpai yet. The thought made her feel a little left out. AKA wondered if being an airhead was why she hadn't met Senpai. Nodoka reassured her gently. There would be time. Yuran stood quietly nearby. A gift had been left for them. Everyone gathered as the room dimmed. Light filled the space ahead. AKA stepped forward with Yuran and Verity. Their eyes widened. Something was waiting. This was the moment they had awaited. AKA Verity and Yuran stood still. A soft light shined beneath them. The shape of a flower appeared slowly. None of them spoke. They just kept watching together in awe. Nodoka explained it was a stripriary flower. It bloomed briefly, then vanished. She had never seen one before. Yuran was surprised. Verity asked again if it was really a flower. The group returned quietly. They shared small laughs and gentle hums. No one spoke loudly. AKA held the memory close. It wasn't just a flower. It felt like a moment. AKA began to hum. Verity noticed first. Nodoka smiled. Yuran listened closely. Her voice held no words, only feeling. It was something she had done even before learning how to speak. Nodoka called it her original language, not airheaded, but creative. Yuran looked moved. Verity watched the flower glow stronger. AKA's singing felt alive. Everyone stayed quiet to hear every sound. Verity reached forward. Her voice shook as she spoke. AKA's song had touched her. Then suddenly, AKA grabbed Verity's hands. They laughed and spun. The music still floated around them. Rain tapped gently on the floor. Everyone sat calmly in the room. AKA hummed a tune while Verity, Yuran, and Nodoka watched. The stillness felt like the start of something. Verity spoke softly. Yuran was strength. She was knowledge. AKA was creation. The idea spread quickly. Yuran panicked a little. AKA clapped. Nodoka tried to keep up with the sudden shift. AKA stood tall. She shouted their team was formed. Light sparkled around them. Verity blinked in confusion. Yuran was overwhelmed. Nodoka could only stare, unsure what had just happened next. Everyone gathered after seeing the stripere flower. AKA called it magic. Verity agreed. Nodoka looked thoughtful. It was their first time seeing it bloom. No one wanted to leave just yet. The train prepared to depart. Kurocha watched the others board. Nodoka remained quiet. What they saw felt different from the records. It was not just data. It felt truly real. She stayed behind briefly. Something about the day lingered in her mind. Then she smiled and sat. Now she understood. It wasn't just a flower. It was a song. Nodoka sat atop the train, leaning on Kurocha. The wind was calm. She thought about Yuran's strength, Verity's insight, and AKA's songs. Together, they were becoming something strong and bright. Below them, the children rested quietly. Nodoka's voice lingered in the air. She believed in them. She saw a future growing. Kurocha's eyes watched the stars without saying a word. Back in the room, Nodoka smiled. The children were asleep. She looked ahead. The future felt closer now. Maybe their colors would shape something new. She was excited to see it. AKA sat quietly beside the black cat, observing the lively cafe. Though her friends weren't there, it was her first visit, and everything felt new, curious, warm, and unfamiliar. Not far away, a young man rushed toward the cafe, breathless, trailed by a small dog. He paused, eyes scanning the area. His urgency faded as recognition sparked. He locked eyes with the girl at the table. The dog slowed, sniffing curiously. The black cat blinked. A silent understanding passed. Then, he approached calm, deliberate. No words needed. They stood still at the plaza's edge. The man arrived. The girl and the cat turned toward him. He hesitated, unsure if what he'd seen was real or memory. He called her a name she hadn't heard in years. The cat stayed silent. The girl shook her head, clinging to her suitcase. His certainty pressed against her doubt. The plaza echoed with their voices. Her name disputed hung between them. She held firm. He stared, unmoving. Crowds passed. One name from the past, one name she chose. Still unresolved, a woman approached confidently, introducing herself as AKA's guardian. She smiled warmly, holding a tray. The man remained cold. The air between them tightened, but introductions could not be avoided. He resisted, questioning their right to know him. The girl clung to her seat. Silence thickened. Frustration sparked as memories pulled from all sides: duty, names, roles unfinished. Finally he relented. His name echoed Niroscuro, not just a visitor but her godfather. The woman's eyes lit with recognition. The past had spoken. The present could now begin. Tension sparked. Nodoka's doubt hung in the air. The black cat frowned, uncertain. Niroscuro's presence stirred suspicion, even fear. AKA reacted swiftly, resisting his hold with dramatic determination. AKA shouted theatrically, accusing him of kidnapping. He sighed, unamused. The cat looked betrayed, its meal half-eaten. Nodoka rushed back. Everyone scrambled as calm collapsed under confused emotions and lunch orders. Nodoka returned, breathless. They gathered around the table. AKA munched happily, pretending nothing happened. Nero stayed quiet, unsure of his place. Nodoka, still smiling, welcomed him into the lunch anyway. Nero sat still, watching the trio laugh and eat. Something in him remained distant. The warmth on their side of the table felt unreachable, yet he lingered a while longer. He quietly stood and walked off. The others noticed but didn't call him back. Nodoka smiled gently. The girl focused on her board, unaware of the shifting distance behind her. As questions returned, AKA showed her persistence board, her proud checklist. Nodoka asked Nero's profession. The girl, beaming, declared her lunchtime manners a triumph. In small moments, her world stayed whole. AKA proudly presented her board. Nero questioned her role in its creation. She claimed it as hers. He pressed. Her confidence wavered under scrutiny, but she still clung to belief. His logic chipped at her claim. She fell silent. Nodoka watched, unsure whether to intervene. The black cat stayed quiet. Words weighed heavier than expected. AKA's certainty began to dim. Still, she defended her work. Her voice shook but held. I made it. Others doubted, but she believed. Imagination and effort were enough for her. That made it true. Nodoka placed her hand on AKA's head, affirming her role in the effort. Nero stayed quiet. Words had been spoken, but something unspoken now passed between all of them. A sudden gust scattered the quiet. AKA's board lifted into the air. She lunged forward. Chairs scraped. Nodoka reached too. Nero stood. Tension returned as fast as it had calmed. AKA stumbled. Nodoka turned in alarm. Nero moved swiftly, catching her arm. Their eyes met. The girl gasped. Her voice cracked with panic. The moment had become something much more urgent. Nero spoke calmly, recalling Nodoka's earlier question. As chaos erupted, he moved without hesitation. Nodoka tumbled. AKA's board flew. The cat stood frozen. Everything shifted in a single breath. Nero lunged. Nodoka slipped. The edge approached fast. The cat watched, wide-eyed. AKA screamed. Over the rail she went. The sky opened beneath her until the unseen net caught her fall. They dangled in midair, safe. Norin shimmered below like a soft curtain. Nero stood above, explaining. This island protected its people, even from themselves. Nodoka clung tight. eyes wide with awe. Nero began his answer. As he floated downward, he described his mission, ensuring no one would fall again. The Norn threads, ancient and remade, would always respond and protect. He called himself a career one who shapes the future. His task was clear: safeguard this land and turn it into a place where danger quietly disappears before harm begins. He returned to the group, grounded again. The explanation was complete. He looked at them, then asked simply if they understood. The meaning behind his work now rested with them. AKA reviewed her board, thoughts quieted. Nero stood nearby, watching. For once, she considered his effort. Maybe he wasn't just strict, maybe he truly cared. The moment softened between them. As the Norn danced above, AKA spoke. Her words were simple, honest, and still playful. Nero looked up, surprised. Behind teasing, gratitude bloomed. For now, their odd bond held steady. With autumn settled in, Nodoka announced a seasonal plan. Her eyes scanned the town with purpose. Onobori's unique charm had returned, and she intended to make the most of it. The group gathered around the table as drones buzzed in the sky. Nodoka explained how the leaves were swept clean, giving way to clear skies, crisp air, and bright trees. The day's goal was set: exploring autumn's beauty. AKA listened closely, nodding. This was no ordinary outing. She promised herself to stay focused, no mistakes, just one perfect day ahead. The wind stirred leaves through the air as the group reached the hill. Their destination was simple: a campfire. For Nodoka, this wasn't just a trip, it was a dream. The fire crackled warmly. Everyone gathered close, basking in its light. It marked the start of something cozy, something shared. For a moment, Onobori felt like the center of everything. As heat rose from the stones, the children leaned closer. Nodoka explained gently. This too was fall: quiet warmth, simple food, a breeze that carried memories and laughter in small things. Kurosha carefully grabbed the roasted potatoes despite the heat. The others flinched in alarm. Nodoka scrambled to help. It was chaos for a second, but also the joy of autumn. With the fire tamed and potatoes cooled, Nodoka made the declaration sweet potatoes were essential. Everyone gathered, hands full, warmth rising. This was fall, distilled into flavor and shared smiles. One by one they took bites. Laughter broke out. Even the cat looked satisfied. No one said much, but in those small, quiet moments, the feeling of togetherness lingered. Laughter echoed as everyone enjoyed the food. Autumn had never tasted better. Warmth settled in, AKA declared it perfect. But then, a small sound broke the moment. Everyone paused, confused. AKA froze, eyes wide. She trembled, questioning the sound. Silence turned awkward. Accusations lingered in glances. Suspicion filled the air as her mind raced to find a polite explanation. Then it happened again. Kurocha was the source clearly. Unavoidably, the group recoiled, AKA panicked. The moment cracked. Even the cat seemed ashamed. Nodoka tried to salvage the scene with calm. After one too many toots, Kurocha was politely exiled. AKA delivered the verdict with teary resolve. The group fell quiet. Kurocha waddled off, leaving behind a trail of stunned silence. The awkwardness passed quickly. Someone spotted acorns. Excitement returned. AKA lit up. With a fresh goal, they regrouped and prepared for the next mission, one with fewer risks and more crunch. Acorn gathering began. The group searched the leaves, proudly announcing each find. Dirt flew. AKA dove in. The peaceful fall day had resumed, laughter rising again, step by messy step. AKA paused mid-search, realizing something. The acorns weren't just random. They had tiny caps details she'd missed. Others were way ahead. Her determination flared. This wasn't just gathering anymore. The friendly hunt became a contest. Piles formed. Strategies emerged. One counted size, another quantity, a third judged cuteness. Gino declared the showdown official, raising the stakes and energy. Each contestant displayed their haul. AKA's pile was dense. Verdi had tiny ones with hats. Urayan stacked giants. No one agreed on criteria. Gino admitted he hadn't explained the rules. The competition ended by the fire. Verdi grew quiet. Her smile faded. She blamed herself. The others listened, puzzled. In her heart, small mistakes felt like heavy weights. AKA, always prone to error, shared her truth. Mistakes were constant, but never final. Tears welled up. Admitting it hurt, but admitting it helped. The warmth of fall held them. Nodoka watched from nearby, silent but present. Mistakes weren't to be feared, they simply were. The others agreed. What mattered was moving forward. Together, even missteps could be part of something good. Leaves danced on the breeze. The children rested, spent from laughter and small stumbles. Nodoka watched over them, her presence steady. Kuroksha remained close, as if nothing had ever gone wrong. They reflected quietly. AKA was often clumsy, but she tried. Sometimes she failed, sometimes she succeeded, but either way, she kept going, carried forward by those who saw her clearly. In that moment, with the wind lifting everything, she felt light. Not perfect, but possible. Like flying, just a little. They all smiled. It had become a perfect autumn after all. They spun through the leaves, laughter rising as they tumbled together. Nodoka caught them mid-fall, arms wide. The moment paused in air just long enough to feel like flying again. They landed in a heap. Breathless, grinning, they declared it flight. The canopy above shimmered with motion. Kuroksha watched, ears twitching. Autumn wrapped them in wind, color, and pure joy. Kuroksha noted the mess. Even the drones were flawed. Mistakes everywhere, but no one minded. That's what made it real fall's natural rhythm, full of stumbles and still completely perfect. AKA smiled through the breeze, cheeks warm, heart full. She held hands tightly, leaves swirling around them. Everything that had gone wrong only made this moment feel more right. Nodoka spoke softly to Verdi. Her brilliance had made mistakes feel heavier. But mistakes weren't failures, they were signs of trying. The message reached her, wrapped in autumn and kindness. They walked on together, feet rustling leaves. Above them, Norin fluttered. Behind them, the day lingered. Ahead, more seasons waited. For now, fall had been lived and it had been enough. The group paused as Verdi gathered her thoughts. She nodded firmly. They smiled, continuing down the path. Leaves drifted behind them. Ahead, warm food waited and maybe a few more mistakes. AKA wandered between gravestones under fading light, her boots brushing dew-soaked grass. A deep hum echoed behind her. She froze. Something unseen stirred, familiar yet wrong. Her heart beat faster. AKA fidgeted at the edge of the field, then dashed off with Kuroksha. Behind her, the man stood still, gaze lowered. A quiet ritual unfolded beneath the drifting leaves. A stranger stood beneath the old tree, visiting alone. The man recognized him, subtle, certain. The same offerings, the same quiet timing. He approached slowly, past the graves, carrying memory. Years had passed. Words stayed unspoken. The sweets at the grave were untouched, yet familiar. Standing beside Nero, he understood. They mourned the same person. Both knew what it meant. AK returned breathless, tugging Gino's sleeve. Recognition flickered in his eyes. The pieces aligned. They all stood beneath the wind tower, past and present, bound by footsteps across old earth. Nero's voice wavered. Gino watched AKA's small frame, realizing who she was. Time had made a circle. The child once left behind had grown among those who remembered. She wandered again, puzzled. Each path curved strangely back. Gino lingered near, protective now. This place, strange as it was, held her steady, its quiet gravity pulling hearts home once more. The unease in AKA's chest deepened. Nero questioned her gently, but she didn't understand. Beneath their feet, the world curved unnaturally, like something hidden behind the familiar sky. They stood on Memento Mori, a floating satellite cemetery. Gravity stones held them upright. The ground circled beneath them like a wheel, never letting anyone fall. It was designed for remembrance. AKA blinked, confused. The explanation drifted over her head. The adults exchanged words, old habits resurfacing. Frustrations reemerged, not yet healed, but none of them moved. They stayed, tethered by memory. Nero's voice stayed sharp, but the weight in his tone betrayed warmth. Gino scowled, yet didn't leave. Old habits clashed again, but underneath, the bond had never broken. AKA watched silently as the men revisited a friendship rooted in memory and conflict. Even amid teasing and jabs, a shared grief kept them anchored. Their laughter hid something deeper. Under the tree's shade, they gathered three lives once bound by her father's presence. AKA listened, not understanding everything, but feeling the warmth that still lingered where his name was spoken. AKA grasped it, simply friends that argued but stayed close. She smiled at the grave, sensing the bond these grown-ups shared with her father. It felt big, but good. They laughed. Grief softened under AKA's innocence. Gino, hesitant, admitted a muted fondness. Nero scoffed but didn't disagree. The past had fractured them, yet her father still linked them all. As petals drifted, they stood together in silence. Time hadn't healed everything, but this meeting mended something. AKA's presence, pure and grounded, became a new thread in their shared story. AKA turned toward the gravestone, confusion washing over her face. Everyone's eyes held the same quiet weight. She asked the question aloud, one she somehow hadn't understood until just now. The truth struck. This was where her father should be, but wasn't. Her voice rose, lost in the wind. A ship hovered silently behind them like a forgotten echo, they explained gently. The gravestone marked absence, not return. His body never found, his presence only carved in stone. AKA stared at the empty spot, suddenly grasping what loss really meant. They admitted the truth. Finding someone lost beneath Ukijima was nearly impossible. Nero and Gino stood shoulder to shoulder again, linked by shared failure and a wound neither could close. AKA's eyes lit up. Now she understood the reason behind the floating veil, the Norin. It was made to prevent more loss. Her father's fall had changed everything forever. They watched her run ahead, innocence dancing over truth. Gino confessed softly he hadn't made it in time. Nero's silence answered. They both carried that same regret, shaped differently. AKA reached up and patted Nero's hand. You tried your best, she said with simple certainty. He looked down at her, shaken but steadied. Her small voice echoed louder than grief. They began walking back. The old pain didn't vanish, but it softened. AKA spun in circles beside them, easing the weight. Even Kurosha smiled. The mood felt different now. Back in town, AKA played without worry. The promise lingered: return visits, shared memories, and maybe healing. Even if her father never came home, his presence would never truly disappear. They returned home quietly. Kurocha spoke softly, noting how AKA hid sadness behind joy. Gino agreed. Today always drew it out of her, yet she still met it bravely. AKA smiled and offered her hand, lightening the mood. Gino didn't refuse. The moment felt simple but whole. In her eyes, he wasn't Mr. Clairvoyant, he was Mr. Happiness. Tired from the day, AKA slept against Gino's side. Kurocha stood watch. They didn't speak. Outside, life moved on. Inside, memories lingered, softened, and rested just for now in peace. AKA and Noru climbed the decorated steps, lanterns glowing. Nodoka, in costume, welcomed them with a grin. Excited, AKA tried to join in but hesitated, unsure of the words. She practiced carefully, but each time she got it wrong. Nodoka watched with growing confusion. Noru offered support, but AKA's determination grew. She refused to give up this time. With renewed confidence, AKA shouted the words with all her strength. Nodoka flinched, startled. Laughter followed. As night deepened, the town sparkled, and Halloween joy spread through every street. AKA peeked at Nodoka's intense glare. Faced with a final choice, she braced herself. Declaring trick, she stood firm. Nodoka smiled darkly. AKA prepared herself for whatever came next. The trick began. Nodoka's fingers launched a relentless tickle attack. AKA writhed, stubbornly refusing to surrender. She wouldn't give up her treat. The battle escalated, laughter echoing through the street. Exhausted, AKA gasped and made a plea. Nodoka grinned and agreed but barely held back. Others watched, intrigued. Inspired, Yuran and Veri stepped forward, eager to join the Halloween fun. Lanterns lined the streets as the autumn parade began. AKA marched beside Nodoka and friends. Today, Onobori town shimmered, alive with lights, laughter, and a festival for the season. Veri explained Halloween's meaning: celebrating the harvest, honoring spirits, sharing joy. AKA listened closely, thoughts swirling. Nodoka smirked but stayed quiet. Everyone moved together under decorations that danced in the wind. As they passed glowing gates, Veri spoke of ghosts blending in. AKA shivered slightly but smiled. They all wore costumes not just for fun but to be part of something old. Nodoka's mentor vanished into the night, entrusting Halloween's magic to them. Beneath lantern light, the town shimmered. Tonight, shadows might stare back, but they would face it in costume. As footsteps echoed, the group sensed something strange. The air felt heavier. Uran's heart thumped. They paused, uncertain. Even with disguises, the thrill of Halloween's mystery still felt real. A sudden noise cracked through the street. Nodoka leapt. Uran shrieked. Fear jolted them all. Laughter followed, but so did tension. Not every sound tonight came from something friendly. They sat beneath the lights. Nodoka warned against shouting fear too loud. Uran listened, puzzled. AKA, quiet beside them, clutched her cape tighter, pretending not to hear but clearly affected. Uran asked why. Nodoka explained, gently scaring others made fear grow stronger. AKA blinked, surprised. The group softened. Their Halloween night shifted less about tricks, more about keeping each other safe. A movement in the crowd caught their attention. A strange cat approached, unfamiliar and silent. They crouched around it, curious. It had no name tag. Maybe, they thought, it was lost. Uran stood tall, claiming her role proudly. She'd protect the group as a police pup, With a nod from Nodoka, they agreed to help the kitten by joining the parade. The group marched beneath lanterns, music surrounding them, aka hummed a tune, quiet at first. Her voice grew, carrying through the street. It became their rhythm, guiding them forward together. One by one, others joined the song. Smiles replaced nervous glances. Above them, lanterns swayed to the melody, aka beamed. With everyone beside her, Halloween didn't feel so scary anymore. They walked through the streets, music in their steps, AKA's song became a thread. With each note, more people listened. Together, they followed the rhythm and moved as one group. Though words were few, everyone understood. AKA's tune wove into hearts, bridging fear and joy. Even strangers felt drawn into her melody. Her song asked not for answers, only for togetherness. Costume shadows gathered. Ghosts, real or not, responded to the gentle call. They joined the search, humming softly. AKA's music whispered purpose, find the kitten's friends, and no one stays alone. The group walked in sync, music gently flowing, lights reflected in their eyes. One by one, new shapes joined them, ghosts, fish, and people, each drawn into the warmth of the moment. Nodoka led with calm grace. Her voice rose slightly, inviting all witches, ghosts, strangers to walk together. AKA watched closely, sensing something sacred in the gathering. Even Uran stood quietly, smiling. The parade took form, their steps echoed across cobbled streets. They no longer searched alone. United by song, a line of odd shapes and small friends formed something beautiful, Halloween itself. A towering ghost figure appeared, calm and silent. Nodoka stared, uncertain. The others stopped too. The crowd of ghostly shapes made way, gathering around as though pulled by something familiar. The children stood in awe. Nodoka knelt among them, surrounded by countless ghosts. No one spoke, but no one feared. The spirits, drawn by song, now stood still in peace. From above, the town glowed beneath hanging lanterns. Nodoka watched quietly from a rooftop, wind in her hair. Halloween had ended not with fright, but with a chorus of togetherness. Suddenly, a sound pierced the stillness, sharp and strange. The ghosts all turned. Above, a black cat stood atop a lamppost. Alert, the parade paused, waiting for what came next. Despite the noise, no fear returned. Beeping filled the air, ghosts echoed it softly. Nodoka stood calm. This Halloween was unlike any before, not eerie, but harmonized in playful rhythm. Lanterns blinked along the bridge. Children, ghosts, spirits, and elders all watched together. Nodoka smiled. The town had never felt so close. This Halloween became a memory everyone would keep. As the crowd faded, Nodoka and the children walked down lantern-lit stairs. The kitten stayed close. Silence followed, not empty, but peaceful. The night was ending. Something had shifted. From above, Nodoka watched. The town rested below, glowing gently. Something unexplainable had happened beyond words or understanding. A quiet magic lingered, felt but never fully known, just deeply remembered. The children huddled close, smiling. Uran spoke with quiet pride. Nodoka smiled softly, the weight of wonder behind her eyes. Halloween wasn't scary now. They had faced it together. The group rested on the porch, surrounded by lights and leftover laughter. Candy bags full, hearts lighter. They looked back on the night of Halloween unlike any they'd known before. With joy renewed, they set off toward Ripacino for a candy party. The bridge ahead shimmered. Their steps echoed softly. Together, they crossed into celebration. Memories stitched in every step. Cold winds swept through the small town. AKA stood with Kurocha, watching leaves drift by. The season was ending. Her eyes followed one leaf, spinning slowly down from the sky. She reached out, catching it softly. For her, it wasn't just falling, it was moving on. Quietly, she imagined its next stop, and felt something in her heart shift too. AKA stood between the tall cat and the quiet man. The wind shifted. Questions were asked. Without delay, he made an offer. The moment paused. She didn't answer. Yet. The man explained further, calm and firm. She listened, uncertain but curious. Behind them, lunch preparations continued unnoticed. The offer grew clearer. A ride. She blinked, surprised, caught between thought and impulse. He gently helped her onto the airbike. Kurocha protested, but the man remained calm. A leaf was tucked in place. With quiet resolve, he prepared for departure, leaving only a note. The airbike lifted into the sky, AKA clung tightly. Below, the world grew distant. She asked where they were going. He answered calmly. The destination would stay secret for now. Wind howled as they soared over a cliff. AKA squeezed her eyes shut, startled by the sudden drop. Her voice cracked into a scream, arms trembling, unsure if she'd made a mistake. The bike steadied, slicing through vast metal beams. He asked if she was afraid. She hesitated, uncertain. Then, heart racing, she answered, "Not scared, just normal." The journey was truly beginning. AKA pointed ahead, spotting Kurocha below. She lit up with joy. The man frowned. He hadn't expected pursuit. They landed, and AKA called out. Kurocha moved forward, determined but slow. He dismissed Kurocha, calling him too slow. AKA protested with pride. Kurocha, in her eyes, was brave and strong. She knew his walk wasn't sluggish, it was matching hers all along. Kurocha's steady pace closed the distance. They continued forward, gliding beneath pipes and beams. AKA held on tightly. The wind rushed louder. Without warning, they soared, then leapt to the next level. Kurocha leapt onto the airbike, ignoring all warnings. The man panicked, expecting a crash. But the bike held steady. AKA smiled, triumphant. Kurocha simply sat, proud to have made it. They soared through the air, all three now aboard. The man sighed his note might be lost. AKA celebrated Kurocha's arrival. Above, wind swept around towers and silent metal bridges. She claimed the note was safe. Kurocha confirmed it. The man remained skeptical. Still, he nodded. AKA believed, as long as the letter was read, things would be all right. Back at the cafe, the note was found. Nodoka's eyes widened in alarm. She misunderstood the calm message, heart racing. Fearing the worst, she believed AKA had been kidnapped. Meanwhile, AKA and her companions reached a new aerial path. Kurocha pointed out the route. Leaves floated beside them. AKA watched silently. One drifted past like a guide on the wind. The man called it the passageway of the wind. AKA recognized markers, placed by someone she admired. She lit up, naming them proudly. Their journey was just beginning to open. They reached the destination Ver-chan once pointed out. The view opened wide beneath them. AKA stared, recognizing it immediately. Her heart steadied. This place wasn't frightening. It felt familiar. The man asked if she still felt afraid. AKA answered truthfully, she had been, but not anymore. She sat tall, proud of herself. In her own words, she was strong. Their path continued downward. The airbike descended between pillars. AKA listened as the man explained the rules. Wind carved the journey ahead. To follow it, one needed courage and a steady ride. The airbike drifted deeper through the wind-carved channels. They were high above the city now. Pipes and paths twisted like threads. AKA held her breath, surrounded by movement and silence. The man revealed the truth. This route hidden, swift, was for emergency escape. AKA listened intently. The wind howled louder. Below, the city faded into cloud. The path ahead remained unseen. He called it a secret passage, known only to a select few. AKA's eyes widened. The moment felt heavier now. They weren't just riding, they were part of something rare. AKA clenched her fists, tears brimming. She said she was fine, even if she wasn't. The man watched quietly. They kept flying. Her question returned. Where were they going? She looked at a drifting leaf and remembered her thoughts. The man spoke gently. Leaves that enter the wind's path are carried far, perhaps to a place like this. He confirmed it. This was the place where fallen leaves may end up. AKA's eyes widened. Her old question, once playful, had led them to a real answer. The airbike descended softly. Around them, leaves floated like travelers finding home. They had reached Neo Venezia, the final resting place for those who drifted far. AKA stared, quiet and overwhelmed. She closed her eyes and smiled, breathing in the still air. Her journey, once uncertain, now felt complete. The leaf she followed had brought her somewhere real and peaceful. The man realized she'd never seen this place before. It wasn't just the leaf's end, it was hers too. A new beginning hidden in a farewell, held gently by the wind. They landed gently in the courtyard. AKA smiled, believing the journey had ended. Kurocha stood beside her, yet something in the air, in the quiet leaves, whispered there was more. The man stepped forward. He felt the shift too. Neo Venezia wasn't just a destination, it was a transition. For AKA, it was almost time. For the city, not yet complete. Above the rooftops, airbikes floated past bell towers. Leaves kept falling, finding their place. The wind carried stories. Neo Venezia waited, unfinished. But it would welcome them. In time, it would bloom. AKA strolled through the courtyard, her steps light. She held a tiny flower and looked ahead with hope. The man watched her quietly, wishing this place would shape her future. They walked past statues and arches. Suddenly, distant sensors activated. Robotic voices called out alerts. Cameras locked onto AKA and the man. Alarms followed. The square was no longer calm. Hover units closed in fast. Red lights flashed. The man stood tall, arms raised. AKA froze beside Kurosha. The air tightened. Their peaceful arrival had just turned into a misunderstanding. Nodoka appeared suddenly, rushing forward. She embraced AKA tightly, relieved. Others gathered, confused by the commotion. Recognition spread quickly. What seemed like trouble turned into reunion. Smiles replaced the tension. Voices overlapped as laughter returned. One by one, misunderstandings faded. AKA stood at the center, no longer just a traveler. They had arrived together. This time, they were truly welcome. Nodoka sat in the cafe, learning Aqua's unusual calendar. A year felt longer, unfamiliar. Questions filled her mind as she compared time on Aqua to what she once knew on Earth. As the calendar unfolded, she visualized the planet's seasons, cycles, and the concept of a reverse birthday. 12 months marked time, yet Aqua's balance kept everything connected, steady, and strangely comforting. A photo caught her eye, framed, slightly tilted. The memory returned a quiet day, someone's birthday, a shared moment. Nostalgia crept in, tying her past to Aqua's slow, winding present. AKA, only 1 year old, had already earned a reputation for mischief. Her restless energy turned crawling into a mission. Nodoka wandered nearby, curious about the photos lining the corridor. Placed gently on the floor, AKA darted off like a wind-up toy. Her guardian trailed her with quiet concern, only to witness her crash, tears flowing as swiftly as her crawl. He comforted her in steady rhythm, calm as ever. Nodoka turned back to the photos one had changed. A digital frame, recording moments like these, quietly pulsed with new memory. At age 2, AKA's world was movement and curiosity. She ran with purpose, unaware of the dangers. A tumble stopped her short, face down, stunned by both impact and surprise. Crying softly, she comforted herself with a learned phrase. Each fall brought new emotion, each recovery, a step forward. The memory etched itself into the digital frame behind her silently. Now 3. AKA was still watched closely. Others questioned her freedom, urging for more outdoor play. Her caretaker listened, holding her firmly. But the thought of change had already begun. A decision was made. AKA should explore freely. Trust in the protective barriers gave way to permission. Her guardians agreed it was time to let her follow her heart outside. She ran joyfully into the open, tiny steps driven by wonder. The protective field stretched quietly. Behind her, watchful eyes measured distance and safety, gauging the balance between freedom and care. That moment became a turning point. A rule was born: she would explore within sight of the windmill. Each photo added became a quiet testament to her careful, steady growth. The photo wall told AKA's story in order, each frame a chapter. Time moved quietly but steadily. Her growth felt real, almost visible, as the images anchored moments once fleeting. Gino and Nodoka stood beneath the evolving wall, now a living archive. Year by year, it recorded change, not just of AKA, but of the world gently moving around her. A photo changed again, revealing someone unfamiliar. Nodoka paused. The caretaker named him AKA's father. Quiet recognition settled in, as the story expanded beyond the child into those who shaped her. A framed photo captured the 3 of them: Gino, Nero, and little AKA. Taken during her earliest birthday, it stood as the starting point of a silent but growing tradition. Nero had suggested the yearly photos, but only joined the first. Nodoka listened as Gino spoke, sensing the weight behind each word. The absence lingered more than either openly said. Nodoka acknowledged what Gino already knew. She had researched AKA's past. Her parents were gone, taken by accident. Gino confirmed with a quiet nod the truth was simple and deeply felt. Nodoka reflected on her arrival. Learning she'd inherit her master's role was jarring. At the time, even grieving had to wait. Responsibility came swiftly, along with the child needing care. Gino, once unsure, now saw meaning in raising AKA. The years spent with her became irreplaceable. Through quiet routine, unexpected connection had taken root in the lives she touched. Suddenly, excitement broke through the calm. AKA's reverse birthday had arrived. A small panic spread, everyone scrambled, the peaceful day transforming into a hurried effort to celebrate what mattered most. With no gift prepared, some worried, but AKA, cheerful as ever, needed nothing but simple joy. For her, the real present was a day of warmth, music, and lemon tea. AKA had only one request to be sung to. Laughter filled the room. Someone strummed a tune. AKA danced, carefree. In that moment, nothing else mattered but the melody around her. Voices joined together, a patchwork of tones. Each happy birthday echoed with sincerity. AKA spun, smiled, and beamed. A celebration made from closeness, not things, a true reflection of the life she lived. The birthday song ended with cheerful applause. Smiles surrounded AKA as her loved ones gathered. In that small room, every voice reminded her she was treasured, seen, and never alone. Gino prepared the camera. Everyone took their place in front of the cottage just like every year. This photo, like the others, would mark another chapter in their shared journey. As the shutter clicked, Nodoka felt something new. Among the frames and memories, she too had found a place. In AKA's story, this evolving tree, she had become part of the roots. Nodoka paused. Emotions surged without warning. Around her, laughter echoed, and the group stood ready. For a moment, she realized just how far they'd all come together. This was family. Gino sensed it too. This year's photo felt different, louder, warmer, fuller. Each face brought something new to the frame. The day was messy, honest, and perfectly imperfect. The shutter snapped. A single instant forever captured. In that frame, a new memory joined the wall, a memory of joy, growth, and the many hearts now beating as one. AKA noticed how bright Onobori had become. Decorations filled every corner. Nodoka explained the reason Christmas was near. The town was preparing for the season's final event with cheerful excitement. The children climbed the steps, eager to hear more. Befana, the witch who gave out gifts, would arrive on Epiphany. Some wondered what she might bring for them this year. Talk of coal and sweets filled the air. AKA grew nervous, unsure if she had been good enough. Still, she smiled, hiding her worry beneath curiosity and playful chatter. To prepare for Befana's visit, the children were asked to write letters. Each one eagerly picked up a pen. The room buzzed with hope, wishes quietly taking shape in ink. As letters were sealed and shared, a task emerged. Someone had to deliver them. Nodoka accepted the role. The group cheered, trusting her to carry their words into magic. Though praised for her effort, Nodoka hesitated. She had collected the letters, yes, but something inside felt unsettled. Still, she smiled, masking her thoughts beneath a gentle sip of tea. Nodoka hesitated. AKA's letter revealed a quiet longing for a mother. The request wasn't material, but emotional. It weighed heavier than any gift. Nodoka read the message again, heart tightened. They considered a plan. Nodoka would act as Befana, play the role briefly. But being someone AKA already saw each day made it hard. Pretending risked breaking something delicate. AKA watched her quietly. Nodoka could feel it. Maybe AKA already saw her as something close. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was full of recognition. Neither had spoken. On the night before Epiphania, the house stirred quietly. AKA peeked from her blanket, excitement barely held back. She was certain the witch would come, if only she could stay awake. Everyone moved carefully. AKA finally drifted to sleep. The room softened into quiet warmth. Gino reassured Nodoka AKA had been kind all year. Surely, Befana wouldn't miss this house tonight. Nodoka held back emotion, touched by AKA's hope. Gino noticed and offered silent support. As they looked out the window, both silently wished for the same thing: let this bring her joy. She hesitated in the mirror. The costume was handmade, a bit bold. But Nodoka had asked, and the promise mattered. With resolve, she stepped into the role of Befana. Outside, the wind was cold, the house quiet. She slipped in silently. AKA stirred, eyes fluttering open. A strange figure approached exactly as the stories described. Suspense hung in the air. AKA sat up suddenly, startled by the silhouette. In the dim light, fear crept in. She whispered the question carefully, unsure what to believe. The figure paused before answering. Nodoka, dressed as Befana, greeted AKA softly. The child blinked, unsure but hopeful. Her grip tightened around her blanket, and she slowly whispered the name she'd written in her letter. AKA asked the question that mattered most. Nodoka paused, unable to grant the real wish. She offered a substitute, just one night as a stand-in. It was all she had. AKA considered, then accepted. One night was enough. Nodoka's heart swelled. This moment, born from honesty and trust, felt more real than any performance. And it had truly reached her. They stood facing each other, both a little unsure. Nodoka waited gently. AKA looked down, then up, quietly thinking. She was trying to decide what mattered most at that moment. From her bed, AKA looked straight at Befana. Her request was small but clear. Not sweets, not a toy, just a hug. One real moment of closeness was enough. Nodoka stepped forward slowly. She knelt, arms reaching out with care. The girl leaned in, trusting, quiet. And there, in that silent exchange, the role became real for them both. Nodoka held AKA gently. The moment felt unusual, but not wrong. AKA leaned in, stunned by the warmth. Around them, the room quieted, filled only with soft awe and wonder. They sat together, arms still wrapped, faces calm. Time slowed. The cat watched, then declared a celebration just for one night. A quiet party, to mark the end of Natale. Stars shimmered outside. From their window seat, they watched the lights. No words were needed. This one night, brief and unspoken, had given something real: connection, comfort, and silent joy. They gazed upward. Stars shimmered above soft, quiet lights, filling the room like magic. AKA's eyes widened. It felt like a dream. The witch's presence had turned the night extraordinary. The air twinkled with wonder. Toys, stars, and sparkles moved gently. Every corner glowed. It wasn't a spell, but it felt like one. Nodoka watched, quietly proud of what they created. From the chest, gifts emerged. The cat played narrator, the magic unfolding around them. Nodoka, in her borrowed role, gave each token meaning. This wasn't illusion, it was joy made visible. The night carried on with quiet joy. The children and creatures gathered, eyes wide. Lights shimmered, gifts sparkled. Nodoka watched from the edge, letting the warmth settle slowly inside her. Outside, the tree wrapped its limbs around the home, like protection. Gino and Nodoka sat together below. Above them, laughter and light danced, proof that this little world had changed. The celebration reached its heart. Stars, sweets, and smiles filled the room. Nodoka looked up once more, her eyes quietly meeting Gino's. For tonight, all was whole. Nothing was missing. AKA leaned in, arms tight around Nodoka. Her hug wasn't rushed, it lingered, steady and sincere. Nodoka held her back gently. In that moment, nothing else needed to be said. AKA spoke softly, explaining how hugs made her sadness float away. Nodoka listened closely, moved by the honesty. The air around them felt lighter, warmed by quiet trust and care. The night faded slowly. Stars shimmered above the house nestled in the cliffs. Inside, peace remained. No magic spell, just kindness and a hug strong enough to carry through tomorrow. AKA awoke to silence, blinking at the fading light. She sat up slowly, the night stars and magic already gone. Her eyes searched the room for traces of what remained. She whispered softly, unsure if it had been a dream. A book on her lap brought it back. Her heart beat faster, something real had stayed with her after all. She rushed to Gino, eager to share. Her words tumbled quickly, full of wonder. He listened calmly, watching her face glow. Morning had come, but her joy hadn't faded. Nodoka brought a picture book as a gift for AKA. Inside it, she included their shared memories. She hoped AKA would see herself as a character in her own adventure. Opening the book, AKA found a scene from their Christmas celebration. She recognized the cat, the guests, and herself. Everything was recorded like magic, capturing their happiest, most recent day. Morning light touched the rooftops. Nodoka watched birds fly beyond the cliffs. AKA's laughter echoed inside. That winter, more than any before, had become a memory they would never forget. AKA lay still, her eyes opening slowly. Something felt unfamiliar. Morning light streamed differently across her room. She sensed it before she understood today was not like yesterday. She rose, blanket sliding away. The quiet around her was deeper than usual. No creaks, no wind, just silence. She approached the window, heart calm, yet oddly expectant. Drawing the curtain aside, AKA froze. The world outside had changed: white roofs, frosted glass, untouched snow. It was the first snowfall, wrapping the town in stillness and wonder. AKA gasped as the snowy view became real. Frosted rooftops shimmered, her tiny body shivered. Wonder turned into awe as the cold air wrapped her in winter's quiet presence. Her mother gently embraced her from behind, wrapping them both in warmth. AKA leaned in, comforted. She listened closely, learning that snow muffles sound, that memories can sleep and return. Noru watched quietly by the window, paws firm against glass. AKA's gaze followed gently falling snow. Her mother's words lingered. Maybe this beauty had always been here, just once forgotten. AKA stepped outside. Snow blanketed the street. Every rooftop, every rail shimmered silver. She followed tiny tracks ahead, heart light. Around her, winter painted the town into a quiet wonderland. Urin bounced ahead, shouting with delight. Snow flew with each leap. AKA watched, amused and cautious. Footsteps pounded. Voices echoed. The still morning melted into laughter, life, and rushing feet. Children dashed wildly. Slippery roads caused stumbles. Verdi, cautious and freezing, hurried to keep warm. The peaceful morning had turned bustling, but its magic stayed, silver and cold, beneath the joy. Verdi lifted Uran, puzzled. Even with the cold, Uran ran endlessly. Their conversation turned to habits and warmth, while AKA stood nearby, quietly observing their contrasting energy with growing curiosity. Uran declared it boldly she ran simply for fun. AKA listened, amused. Her bundled coat felt heavier now. Next to Uran's light clothes, she and Verdi looked almost oversized by comparison. Uran's blunt remark landed like snow, soft but surprising. Verdi and AKA stood frozen, cheeks puffed, caught between laughter and embarrassment. Their stillness cracked only by a small mutual wobble forward. Teasing turned playful. Uran poked Verdi's cheeks, bursting into laughter. Verdi flushed with annoyance, chasing her through the snowy street. AKA watched them both, hiding a small, entertained smile behind her scarf. Uran sprinted off, chased by Verdi's mild fury. A nearby adult called her name. AKA and Verdi learned Uran had plans her family was traveling. Today she couldn't stay and play. The three walked together to the Airbus station. Wind tugged at cloaks. Birds scattered. As Uran boarded with her family, Verdi and AKA waved from the edge, whispering their quiet goodbye. The farewell turned awkward. Waving too soon, they realized the Airbus hadn't even arrived. Silence filled the space. Verdi, still sore from teasing, pouted as the group exchanged puzzled looks. They stood unsure, caught in an endless wave cycle. Verdi glanced sideways. Everyone else waved, even the cat. The quiet pressed on her. She questioned her own mood in silence. With a sudden shout, Uran spun around, snow flying. She apologized loudly, face flushed. Her words trailed off into the wind, carried with warmth and honesty only a child could express. As the Airbus prepared to arrive, emotions softened. Verdi apologized too, realizing her feelings had been quick to rise. Uran listened, her ears drooping. They met halfway with quiet understanding. The snow swirled as the Airbus landed. Uran's eyes lit up again. She called out through the noise, declaring her affection boldly. Everyone smiled. Peace returned, wrapped in snowy farewells. Uran promised to come back soon. Gratitude, laughter, and relief filled the air. As the Airbus doors closed, Verdi clapped softly. Ake followed, her hands echoing joy into the sky. The station buzzed with quiet goodbyes. Verdi, AKA, and the others moved through snow-covered streets. Hot drinks steamed, air chilled. The Airbus climbed away. Departure always came faster than it felt. As footsteps pressed into fresh snow, conversation turned to Uran's big step. She'd be moving soon, starting school. Worries followed her. But she kept walking, small but steady, determined to grow. She shouted boldly, brushing off doubts. Friends would be nearby, and that was enough. Her smile reached high as she teased her dad, hiding her own flicker of fear inside confidence. They walked through the plaza, snow crunching underfoot. The streets were wide, buildings grand. Uran moved between her parents, her steps quick. The city ahead promised something different, something big. The three crossed the bridge together. Uran's excitement grew. Each step brought her closer to her next chapter. A new place, a new school, but with her family here, she felt ready. Nodoka stepped out into the brisk morning air, adjusting her shawl. Spring hadn't arrived yet, but her steps felt lighter. Inside, the family stirred gently, preparing for the day. Everyone gathered by the curtains, gazing at plum blossoms blooming through swaying norin. The air held promise. AK leaned forward, eyes wide, sensing her world expanding beyond the windmill. They spoke quietly behind her. School was near. Plans were in motion. While the others played, Nodoka watched AKA closely, knowing change would come faster than anyone expected or prepared for. Nodoka felt the weight of change. The children would soon leave, and so would she. No new assignment had come. Onobori, once full of life, was becoming quiet. The thought struck her, once these three left, there'd be no children left in town. A hollow silence crept in, but suddenly, a voice pulled her back with urgency. Urami's background was revealed: noble, wealthy, rooted in town history. Their support would benefit future students. Hope stirred in Nodoka's heart. Maybe Onobori's story wasn't ending, only turning a page. The offer surprised her. Dorm mother? It was sudden, yet fitting. Remaining with the children, guiding more to come, it gave her purpose. A path opened where none had existed. She hesitated, unsure, emotions welling behind her smile. The children looked on quietly. Beneath the Norn curtains, the breeze whispered change. A choice approached. The future waited, not far off. A moment of pause, then movement. Gino's warm gesture grounded her. With AKA gone for the day, she turned toward new possibility, her heart light, step steady, and mind full. She entered quietly, carrying new hopes. Gino welcomed her with ease, and the others made room. The main building stood still, patient, like it had been waiting just for her. The air inside held warmth, polished wood, high ceilings, gentle light. She climbed slowly, soaking in details. It wasn't just a building it felt lived in, held memories and meaning. Toys from the past rested on tables, unchanged. Stained glass filtered golden light. Her chest tightened softly. It felt like a home that remembered every step steeped in silent comfort. She wandered freely now, no longer a guest. The space felt lived in, full of stories. Gino brewed tea downstairs. She paused, soaking in the home's quiet joy and calm. Memories clung to the furniture, walls holding echoes of laughter. In the stillness, time seemed paused. She wasn't just visiting anymore, she was becoming part of this place's rhythm. Downstairs, AKA carefully prepared for her next chapter. New clothes, supplies, excitement. Nodoka watched her proudly. Change was coming fast, but here, in this moment, everything felt just right. AKA proudly revealed her treasure-stuffed friends packed with care, her suitcase bursting with joy. Nodoka smiled, recognizing not just belongings, but a spirit growing stronger with each small step. Then came the uniform, crisp and new. Nodoka's breath caught at the sight symbol of what was coming. The future was arriving faster now, and it was undeniably adorable. As they talked, Nodoka learned the bag had long been chosen for AKA, a subtle preparation for change. Surrounded by newness, AKA seemed ready because love had made her so. As Nodoka wandered alone, thoughts stirred. The small things, familiar objects, gentle routines carried meaning. They anchored hearts quietly, offering strength in ways too subtle to notice until truly needed. She paused, realizing how deeply Gino had supported them all. He was always there, quietly steady, never asking for attention. Her emotions now felt selfish, kept too long inside. Looking down from above, she saw him, one man holding everything together in silence. She stood still, breath caught. The truth landed gently, he had been enduring it all alone. Nodoka held back tears, breathing through the silence. Her thoughts had spiraled inward, but now, the warmth from others slowly filled the space she'd unknowingly let grow hollow. Gino's voice broke through gently. He had been relieved, truly relieved, that she would stay. His calm presence, always reliable, now revealed its quiet weight. Nodoka felt the truth settle in. AKA, ever cheerful, still carried loneliness beneath the surface. Nodoka saw it now, why she mattered here. Why this role mattered. It wasn't just a duty, it was connection. AKA sat tall in her chair, dressed in ceremonial clothes. The room was quiet but warm. Gino watched proudly. Nodoka stood nearby, her heart full, ready for what followed. Outside, the building stood under blue skies. Emotions swelled as everyone gathered. AKA's steps toward her new life were small but certain. Behind her, memories remained carefully held by those who stayed. The windmill stood silent as two figures stepped outside. Their bags were packed. The cold sky betrayed no emotion. Today, they would leave the only place they had ever known. She paused beside the path, breath visible in the frigid air. The suitcase waited quietly. Yesterday's warmth was gone. With each second, her heart braced for what couldn't be delayed. Inside, water boiled patiently. The room was still. A hand reached for the pot. Behind closed doors, farewells brewed slower than tea, an old rhythm not yet ready to end. They stepped into the warmth of the inn, where steam and scent greeted them. An old man poured tea. Her fingers trembled, but the place felt steady, calm, unchanged. They exchanged parting words near the luggage. She watched her guardian speak with quiet confidence. The child's future was entrusted. Beyond goodbyes, silent understanding passed between those staying and those leaving. The girl greeted the morning with bright certainty, unaware of the weight around her. Light filtered down. The cat watched from above, as if guarding the peace of another day. She struck a proud pose, glowing with excitement. Laughter filled the room. Despite the cold warmth blossomed indoors, today was different departure day, and yet still beautifully rooted in morning routines. Preparations resumed with practiced energy. She flipped pages, combed hair, planned breakfast. Nothing was left to chance. Around her, the adults watched with half-amused affection, knowing these moments would soon change. She declared herself ready, not just in clothes but in spirit. The board she carried wasn't just a tool, it was memory. Her guardian smiled. The child's path had truly begun. They ate in silence, seated where they always had. Familiar seats, familiar plates. Yet beneath that stillness, something shifted. Departure loomed close, quietly transforming what once felt ordinary into memory. The morning light filtered in as usual, but today marked an end. She observed them closely, committing details to heart. The warmth of routine began giving way to change. The child finished quickly, while her guardian lingered, heart heavy. The girl, eager to ease the farewell, rose cheerfully. "Take your time," she said, the words more mature than expected. From above, she watched the children run. Their joy remained untouched by the weight of farewell. She stood still, knowing this morning's peace would soon become a memory. She reflected on the small routines that shaped AKA's world. Breakfasts, warm greetings, Gino's presence, all constants until now. Change was coming, but AKA still saw each day as the same. She clenched her hand, finally ready to speak. AKA paused, sensing the shift. The words came slowly. Today wasn't ordinary. It was a final chapter that even AKA would soon feel. He offered his quiet approval. No objections, no resistance, just support. They all knew the time had come. She accepted the moment, silently grateful for the calm in his words. The child's expression showed curiosity, not sorrow. The adult realized growth didn't always need guidance. Understanding would come, slowly but surely, shaped by time and experience, as it had for them. AKA stood, ready to go. The teacher hesitated, still processing the farewell, but AKA was already moving forward. It was time. Childhood never waits, it simply walks ahead. Bags packed, she stepped out. Gino watched quietly, offering no words. AKA turned, calling out her farewell. The child's cheer was unshaken, unaware of the weight behind her words. Gino gave a nod and turned away. The others stayed silent. The door closed slowly behind him, carrying with it a quiet finality none of them voiced aloud. Stillness filled the room. No more footsteps. No more chatter, just the faint sound of shifting wood and the slow echo of something quietly, inevitably ending. The creaking windmill echoed softly. Gino stood motionless, surrounded by stillness. Memories stirred. In the quiet, he began to hear the place again, as it had sounded before AKA arrived. He remembered the early days before the laughter, before the warmth. He had once worried the wind's groan might drive others away, but now, it was simply part of home. Just then, the door burst open. The girl's voice cut through the silence. They hadn't left yet. Gino looked up, steadied by their return, surprised by the comfort it brought. She returned to find him still at the counter. Calling softly, she paused when the child gently pulled her back. AKA understood something unspoken and asked to give him space. She explained in her own way tears were normal, even good. Gino was kind, but even kind people need moments to feel. They stepped back, letting him hold the moment alone. He exhaled, emotions settling. Then came her voice again, bright and full of hope. She shared the morning like it was magic, and in that light, he found his smile. As snow melted, blossoms danced in the sky. Petals drifted between them like quiet blessings. On this clear, sunlit morning, the world gently acknowledged the moment they were stepping into. Gino watched the petals, taking in the sight. It was a rare day, perfect for farewells. Their smiles were soft. The stillness between them said what words could not. She promised to take care of AKA. Her voice trembled but held firm. Gino nodded, trusting her. The windmill turned behind them, marking time, marking growth. And the journey began. They stood beneath falling petals, parting without hurry. Gino gave AKA a gentle pat, the kind that carried love and trust. The moment held stillness but not sadness. AKA nestled against him, comforted by the warmth she'd always known. Around them, petals danced. Nothing needed saying. Gino's quiet farewell echoed in the way he stood alone. With one last glance, she stepped forward. The road was new, the journey just beginning. And though hearts trembled, their faces lifted toward the future, bright and unafraid. They waved as he departed, the petals swirling around them. She held AKA's hand tightly. Farewells had been spoken. Now only steps remained, carrying them forward into what came next. The authorities suddenly seized Kurocha, surrounding him with rigid protocol. AKA watched, confused and still. Whisked away for inspection, Kurocha sniffed curiously. Unknown and unregistered, he triggered a quiet alarm. Classified as a threat, Kurocha faced inspection under sterile eyes. AKA peered nervously through the railing, helpless. The officials began diagnostics. Nodoka investigated. Realizing Kurocha had no species listed, AKA was comforted and led back, unsure. Nodoka assured her of Kurocha's safety. They returned to the dormitory. where tests continued. They waited quietly, hearts hoping for his safe return. The city buzzed softly as AKA followed Nodoka toward their next destination. Above, airships drifted. Nodoka smiled warmly, pulling luggage with ease. Together, they stepped forward to begin again. AKA pushed the heavy door, determined. Nodoka encouraged her gently. They stood before their new life. AKA's eyes welled with awe. This wasn't just a place, it was Youngleaf Manor. Sunlight spilled across the towering halls. Echoes of footsteps filled the open space. AKA stood still, taking it all in. Her journey had changed, and this place would shape it. Inside the manor, towering columns and archways embraced the newcomers. AKA stood still, overwhelmed. Nodoka watched her quietly. This grand space, bright and vast, whispered stories of lives once lived. They looked up at the inner courtyard, open to the sky. Flowers lined the balconies. AKA whispered in awe, her steps small. Every corner of the manor felt impossibly big. AKA followed a distant meow. Nodoka smiled, amused by the echo. To AKA, it felt like a castle too large to grasp. Yet somehow it already felt a little like home. AKA declared the start of something new. Nodoka, steady as ever, walked with quiet pride. From now on, they would live together 3 lives in one home, shared by fate, overcome by the moment. AKA bowed deeply. Her small frame trembled with effort. Guests watched, curious. Nodoka smiled, surprised by the sudden formality and touched by the girl's pure heart. Nodoka bowed in return, mirroring the gesture with grace. The room sparkled with laughter and light. AKA's greeting, though clumsy, marked her first step into this life of belonging. Their new room was spacious and warm. Nodoka unpacked while AKA peeked outside. The building across was bustling. Their luggage arrived just in time, clattering through the chute with force. AKA whispered to her toys, gently placing them near the window. Curious, she opened the shutter. Nodoka approached, sensing something odd. AKA's wide eyes locked on a familiar silhouette. Across the gap stood Nero, casual and calm. Nodoka froze in shock. He greeted them like neighbors. "This is where I live," he said, sipping tea as if it meant nothing. Nodoka formally acknowledged Nero's presence from the window. Despite his indifferent exit, the mood in the room lightened. She turned to AKA, ready to settle in for their first night. Nodoka joined AKA, pajamas on and permission granted. AKA clutched her Epiphania gift, a picture book embedded with a strange acorn-shaped item. Its design sparked wonder. Something about it felt important. The book stirred curiosity and sleepiness alike. Nodoka chuckled, calling it a child's version of her leaf phone. With the day ending, they rested together, safe and ready for tomorrow's new beginnings. Night settled. AKA slept peacefully, holding her plushie. Lights sparkled beyond the window. Nodoka smiled softly and stepped out, finding the restroom. All was quiet until AKA stirred slightly in bed. Thinking Nodoka asleep, AKA whispered into the darkness. A faint fear crept in. She called softly for her teacher. Her eyes scanned the room, uncertain, thoughts drifting to Kurosha. The silence thickened. AKA sat up, clutching her toy tighter. Nodoka hadn't returned. Something inside her stirred a worry, a longing. She murmured one name, Kurosha, and looked toward the door. AKA sat quietly in bed, hugging her plush tightly. The room felt colder, emptier without Kurosha or Nodoka. She looked toward the door, heart murmuring only one name, Gino, far away. Gino sat in his quiet chamber. Thoughts of AKA filled his mind. Though she smiled, he knew her heart quick to ache, quick to miss. He worried quietly. He remembered how AKA G when she was lonely, a soft voice meant only for herself. As stars lit the night outside, a quiet tune floated unseen, wrapping her like comfort. Nero paused. A melody drifted through the air, soft and familiar. His sharp mind quieted. It was a song unmistakably AKA's. He turned toward the window, drawn by her voice. The song echoed gently across the night. Nero stood still, expression unreadable, surrounded by notes and diagrams. For a moment, he listened, more than just a scientist now, but a witness. From her bath, Nodoka perked up. The melody wrapped around her like warmth. Surprised, she whispered AKA's name. Her eyes softened. Somehow, she wasn't surprised. AKA always G when alone. Nodoka settled deeper into the warm bath. A subtle shift below startled her. Something brushed past her leg. She paused, uneasy. The water rippled oddly, and she leaned forward. Bubbles rose unnaturally. Below the surface, strange shapes flickered. Nodoka froze as ghostly sea creatures emerged from the depths, alien, glowing, silent. The bath had become a hidden world beneath her. She gasped and bolted upright. The creatures were gone. Everything looked normal again. Heart racing, she scanned the room. Nothing moved. The tub was still, but something had changed. Nodoka stood behind the tubs, her eyes fixed on the ornate window. The air felt different. Nothing moved. She scanned the tiled floor, uneasy. This room wasn't the same. The man rubbed his eyes, weary from hours of research. Piles of notes lay untouched. He stood up slowly, deciding rest might sharpen his thoughts. Silence filled the dim room. He lifted his cup, stepping toward the window. A cloaked animal hopped across the sill, catching his attention. Curious, he watched as it turned to glance, then padded away purposefully. Alarmed, he followed the strange creature through the corridor. The cat moved without fear, leading him forward. Something about its pace felt urgent. He descended the stairs, heart steadying with purpose. He stepped into a twisted corridor blooming with vines and hanging walkways. The walls bent at odd angles. Confused, he scanned the space, realizing he wasn't alone in this maze. From another window, a girl called out to him. Cats move freely across platforms. He questioned reality but followed instinct. The name aka echoed as his thoughts drifted toward her. He saw her below, singing faintly. Time felt strange here. Voices overlapped like dreams. The structure shifted slightly as he listened. Despite doubt, he knew he had to keep going. She warned him AKA's songs often stirred strange phenomena. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. The world twisted subtly, as if reacting to sound itself. He stared, trying to understand. Figures danced in the distance. Whimsical shapes, like spirits or illusions, flickered alive. He watched her leap into motion, determined. Despite the warning, he felt drawn even closer to Aka. She slipped through hanging bridges and roots, calling back for him to wait. He hesitated. Something unseen shifted again. The house groaned softly. A door creaked open. He moved forward. She nearly fell, but caught herself just in time. Her breath steadied. Strange smoke curled from a nearby vent. With calm steps, she approached the odd shape resting below her. Pale fog drifted as she climbed atop the massive mask-like figure. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. She inhaled deeply. Something unseen awakened. Her heartbeat began to rise in rhythm. Smoke coiled upward. The structure responded to her presence, exhaling warmth. She stood still, eyes sharp. Her hands clenched with purpose. Whatever was coming, she was ready to face it fully. She entered a hall lined with rows of silent wooden figures. Their painted eyes followed her steps. Her pace slowed. Something glimmered ahead, a book resting between the dolls, untouched. She took the book, trembling. Her voice barely rose as she whispered, "I have to go." Below, familiar faces stirred among smoke, but doubt settled heavy in her chest. Tears welled up. Her hands shook uncontrollably. She dropped beside the shelves, breathing ragged. "I'm scared," she whispered first to herself, then louder. Around her, whispers echoed the same fear. She crouched low, barely able to lift her head. The cat-like figures stared silently. A voice called her name. Slowly she looked up. Familiar faces were waiting, gentle, unmoving, patient. A crash broke the stillness. He had fallen, landing hard. He rose quickly, breath sharp. Their eyes met across the space, his calm gaze meeting her overwhelmed, tear-streaked expression. He said nothing. She could only cry. A single tear fell to the floor between them. For a moment, time paused. Neither moved. The air trembled with unspoken understanding. She trembled and confessed she had lost someone important. He asked about Alpha Celeste. Her heart stung. Tears spilled. When he touched her shoulder, she flinched. The pain felt all too real. He steadied himself, realizing he could feel pain here. This world was more than illusion. They decided to search for clues. The cats nearby munched quietly, oddly serene in contrast. Recognition struck. These were the kittens from Halloween night. She knelt down, pleading for help. They responded gently. The mystery deepened, but for now, they weren't alone in their search. She noticed her body had stopped trembling. His calm voice grounded her. A small silence passed between them. Her eyes lowered, her heart still fragile, but steadier than before. The cats listened as if understanding. She explained their minds matched young children in thought. He cradled one gently, wishing he could speak their language. Questions bloomed in his mind. He pondered deeply Alpha Celeste, her songs, the bizarre world they were trapped in. And more importantly, how to return. She watched him from behind, silently holding a question of her own. They drifted in a vast chamber, suspended by tangled walkways. No clear path returned to the beginning. Each stepped deeper, blurred direction. The truth was simple, they had no way back. The girl reached a domed tower's peak while he remained below. Vines curled through stone and iron, all paths twisted. They paused separately, knowing the journey forward must begin alone. Nero and the girl arrived at the strange tower, its vines twisting skyward. Searching for AKA, they climbed the steps, unsure if they'd find answers or only more mysteries. They opened the creaking door. Dust-filled air greeted them. Inside, silence lingered above piles of papers and forgotten books. The room was lived in, yet felt abandoned by time itself. They stepped forward. The cat leapt ahead, scanning the shadows. Light flickered above. They exchanged a glance, nodded, and entered. Something or someone was waiting on the other side. They wandered through towering columns of books and vines. Darkness pressed around them. The girl stumbled, eyes wide. The air shimmered, heavy with forgotten words, and something quietly watching. A sudden rustle caught her attention. She turned. Among the vines, light bloomed softly. Her steps slowed. She gazed upward, drawn by silent shapes drifting around the glowing stems. In the center stood a cloaked figure, tall and still. Its robe was wrapped in flowers. The girl approached cautiously, sensing it was not a statue but something very old. She collapsed onto the cushions, breath catching. The tall figure loomed. No words came. The man stepped forward carefully, watching its silent form. The cat watched too, alert, waiting. She forced a greeting, unsure it heard. It didn't reply, only stared. The room brightened with floating lights. The man stepped in. The air shifted. Something beneath them moved. The ground opened. They stumbled back. Glowing creatures spilled out. The girl demanded answers about Alpha Celeste. The figure stirred. It reached forward gently, resting its paw near her hand. The figure bowed its head. A low voice filled the air. She stepped back. The man stood steady. Their journey had brought them here, but the answers had just begun. A small device glowed. Her eyes widened. It translated cat speech. She understood everything now. The man looked impressed but confused. The creature offered the translator, and a challenge followed. They agreed to a match: rock, paper, scissors. Simple rules, yet weighted with meaning. He squared his shoulders. She smiled faintly. The tall figure raised its hand. The game began. The creature sighed and relented. "Come with me," it said. Without argument, they followed. The walls shifted, the path opening to a deeper chamber lit by hidden wonder. They entered a great room. Shelves spiraled skyward. At the center stood a delicate machine, an orb spinning gently, light and petals dancing inside. The girl stepped closer, eyes wide. He called it the space-time tree's vessel. Aquatic plants floated, fish gliding through streams of light. She watched in silence. A new one could be made, but only with time. They pressed for urgency, but the elder cat remained calm. While a new translator would be made, haste would help nothing. The room filled with quiet tension and stares. While they waited, the girl used her translator. She could understand the cats fully now. They spoke of food, bellies, and war. Though their war was clearly with hunger, she tasted the broth. Warmth spread through her. It was almost enough to bring tears. She smiled at the chubby cat, Fuku, who grinned proudly at her joy. The girl exchanged names with the black cat, Kin. Nicknames circled playfully. The elder remained serene, allowing any title. He purred, resting among scrolls while the others talked softly. The man stepped aside, lost in thought. Something about this place unsettled him, its stillness, its timelessness. He sighed quietly, questioning how far they'd drifted from the world they knew. The elder revealed the truth: they were no longer in their world. This place, wrapped in vines and books, was called the other side. Their eyes widened in silence. The elder explained this was the realm of the dead or something like it, yet their bodies were intact. Confused, they wondered how they crossed into such a place. The girl trembled. They hadn't died, yet they arrived where only souls belonged. Such travelers were called climbers, rare exceptions who reached the unreachable. The catfolk had saved them. The girl gave her name Nodoka Daidal. The elder's eyes welled with joy. A name remembered meant identity held. She had not faded, not yet. She was still herself. They had survived the crossing by remembering each other's names. In this strange place, even identity was fragile. To forget was to dissolve, to slip into the haze forever. He insisted he'd never forget. Yet the elder warned names fade like dreams. The moment you forget, your will to leave vanishes. Without memory, there's no path home. The elder's voice softened. A nameless climber would remain here eternally, wandering the folds between worlds. She stared into the light, feeling the weight of identity press firmly into her chest. Nodoka's voice cracked as she remembered aka. Nero caught the urgency and stood without hesitation. The pause had ended. Their purpose reignited. They could no longer wait in this strange world. Though he hadn't heard their words directly, Nero pieced together the entire meaning. Nodoka was astonished. He focused them on Alpha Celeste. The mystery began tightening around a device. The translator wasn't magic, it was tech. Nodoka's matching earring was the key. AKA wore a similar device. With it, they could track her. Nodoka gave the signal. The search resumed. A strange wind swept through the room. Scrolls flew, lights blinked. Nodoka froze. Everyone turned toward the glowing center. Something immense had awakened, pulsing with unseen force and data. From the vessel's heart, streams of code burst outward. They spiraled upward, filling the air with symbols. The entire room transformed, no longer a library, but a living interface. Nero pointed upward. Among the swirling data, a name appeared: AKAs. This wasn't just magic, it was a system. They now stood inside a world that could reveal her path. The light stream shifted. It began to move. Nodoka and Nero exchanged a glance. The cats, now allies, stepped forward. Gratitude filled the air. The time to act had come. Without hesitation, they ran toward the doorway. Behind them, the chamber quieted. The path ahead was uncertain, but the mission was clear: find aka before the other side swallowed her. In a distant realm, a black cat was entrusted with a celestial library. Surrounded by floating books and divine symbols, the cat guarded ancient knowledge hidden from the world. The cat spent days wandering vast shelves, maintaining scrolls that whispered time's secrets. Within the books, all history flowed, future and past, while feline companions played, keeping the mansion quietly alive. One day, visitors stumbled upon the library's heart. A strange orb pulsed with mystery. Startled, they watched a Daruma doll awaken, blinking slowly, as the cat's voice echoed through stone. As the Daruma stirred, the visitors tensed. A towering man appeared beside a flustered girl. The room shifted. The Onceslent books seemed to listen, as confusion replaced stillness. The groaning grew louder. Shadows gathered behind barred windows. The girl knelt beside the trembling cat. A presence loomed closer, vast, unseen, yet all felt its weight pressing against the glass. Joy erupted. Nodoka embraced her mentor, whose dramatic entrance rattled reason. Questions clashed with emotion. The man, unsure and alert, eyed the stranger, wondering what fate tied them to this place. Nodoka introduced her mentor, recalling life in Onobori town. Grateful and awkward, she praised the woman's guidance. Though her words faltered when asked a simple question, her mentor's actual name. Faced with silence, the question lingered. Nodoka searched memory, guilt rising. Her mentor smiled gently but turned away. The past, filled with kind debts, suddenly felt distant, unclear and unfinished. Memories shifted. AKA's emotions drew Kurocha back again and again, despite growing dangers. Her visits waned, yet she always returned, drawn not by logic, but something stronger: AKA's quiet, aching heart. The man admitted guilt with a smirk. He had tampered with the drones. Amid shifting blame and laughter, the truth emerged: he'd orchestrated things to protect someone he quietly cherished. Her mentor's gaze sharpened. Kurocha's role was more than protection, it was spiritual anchoring. To keep AKA from crossing over, he'd taken on a dual nature, unseen yet ever watching. They stood together now, guardians and friends. Kurocha rolled forward, ever dutiful. With a soft clink of gears, the threads of time tightened. She called it simply timekeeping meows. The Daruma's exhale filled the chamber. Tension thickened as all eyes locked on the animated figure. Its sudden stillness brought unease. Everyone waited, unsure what its next movement meant. Chaos followed. The Daruma lunged. They scattered, slipping between bookshelves and stone tiles. The black cat spun wildly. But amidst the panic, a clue emerged: AKA's location was no longer hidden. One of them had been tracking her all along. Their research led to a revelation. With the final puzzle piece uncovered, they knew why she returned and how to follow. As the truth clicked, they ran. The key was not place or person, it was song. Behind them, the Daruma stirred. Ahead, revelation waited with the weight of understanding. The mentor explained. Thought begins silently, before sound. That earliest spark, unshaped emotion, manifests as music. Each note reflects life's mood. Somehow, this silent melody connects all living things instinctively. Music, more than words, bound them all. Not merely human, but universal. The language of nature echoed around them. The answer they sought wasn't hidden, it had always been heard. The Daruma broke free, collapsing the entire chamber. Wood and stone shattered. The group leapt from debris, barely avoiding collapse. Their path forward had literally and violently been cleared by force. Tumbling through wreckage, they gripped each other. Dust and light swirled. Amid flying rubble, one word echoed Daruma. With every syllable, awe grew. The ancient force was more than symbolic. The giant fell, thunderous and final. Silence followed. They stood bewildered but safe. In the wake of chaos, all stared at the fallen colossus, realizing the journey had truly begun. They rushed forward, unsure if their friend had vanished to save them. A sudden tremor cracked the floor. Without warning, a blast lifted the group into another collapsing chamber. AKA emerged alive. She stood beside the towering Daruma. Calm and determined, she faced them all. The Daruma, reborn in power, prepared to channel the purest origin of creation. They ascended together, guided by the Daruma's steady form. As books fluttered like leaves, her voice named it Kotodama Song, the song that binds all things through pure resonant thought. Nodoka was called gently. The Daruma stepped forward, holding out a small item. It was the ribbon she had lost earlier. Everyone watched as she received it in silence. The moment eased the air. Something so large and mysterious had simply wished to return what was dropped. But one deeper mystery lingered: why Alpha Celeste could sing those songs. There were no answers yet, but they couldn't delay. With steady resolve, they followed their guide down the final stairs. AK waited ahead, and truth lay just beyond her. The girl and the large cat slept peacefully in the cozy attic. Morning light filtered in as she stirred. Around them, crates and barrels stood stacked in quiet stillness. She rose, noticing the cat already awake and staring intently. A silent tension grew. She matched its stare, confused. The cat's mood shifted, stern and serious without warning. The cat stood abruptly and led her outside. She followed, surprised. Something important was waiting. The day had begun, and whatever came next, she knew it wouldn't be ordinary. A giant tree stretched skyward beside the floating house. Lights flickered within. Below, the girl and the cat stood still as a figure descended slowly, surrounded by glowing lanterns. The woman landed gently. The girl recognized her but hesitated. The woman smiled, asking her name. Flustered, the girl fumbled. The cat watched in silence as memories stirred. The woman raised her hand and spoke her name, Alpha Celeste. The girl nodded, recalling. Together, they stepped forward, guided by lantern light, beginning the journey that fate had paused. The man climbed down from the lantern paths and called out her name. Alpha Celeste quietly confirmed it. Below, the girl and the cat sat, listening as memories began resurfacing. Alpha sat beside the others, explaining her long search. The man asked about the hidden place. She paused, then admitted she'd once come here often, though the details felt distant. The girl swung slowly under the lanterns. The man recalled hearing her sing. Alpha explained this place welcomed her when she felt lost. It always brought her back when needed. The man asked about her song. The girl swung and smiled. Alpha explained it came from moments of loneliness. It was her way of telling herself to hold on. Curious, he asked who had taught her the song. The girl paused, uncertain. She only remembered learning it as a child, not from where or whom. Silence filled the air. Pressed further, she hid behind the tree, flustered. The cat observed quietly. Alpha and the man watched as memories flickered. He whispered her name, unsure if she remembered what AKA sat at the base of the tree, suddenly still. A strange light hovered above her head. The others stared, frozen, as the air around them shifted with weight. The ground trembled softly. Roots twisted upward like veins reaching through sky. They watched in silence as the heart of the great tree revealed itself, pulsing quietly beneath the lanterns. The ancient tree loomed larger, its form clearer. Wrapped in bark and time, it stood as both house and being. In that moment, they realized they were standing before a god. AKA sat quietly, trying to speak. Her body gave out as the pressure overwhelmed her. The man took a deep breath, then marched forward, eyes locked on something unseen. Without hesitation, he broke off a branch from the sacred tree. Leaves fell. AKA flinched, confused. She couldn't understand why he did it. The silence felt heavy and strange. Alpha finally spoke. The song was his gift to her, shared long ago when she was lonely. Hearing it again, AKA muttered a quiet insult, tears hidden behind stubborn pride. AKA repeated the words he once told her. If she loneliness would fade. She breathed through the tears, realizing she hadn't been alone, someone had always cared. She looked up. The god had stayed quietly above her. Alpha comforted her, gently reassuring that everything was okay. AKA finally believed it. She was safe. She was wanted. With new resolve, AKA made a promise. She would form a unit to fight loneliness with everyone by her side, Even him. She gave her name, she stood for herself. AKA leaned into Alpha's embrace, comforted. The moment had softened. Around them, friends gathered by the tree. The stillness held peace. She whispered her agreement. It was time to return. The group prepared to leave. AKA glanced back, then forward. She knew the way now. With the others nearby, she began humming quietly the Let's Go Home song she once learned. They walked side by side beneath the quiet sky. Swings swayed behind them, a soft note hung in the air. Together, they stepped forward. Home was no longer far away. As they walked, music surrounded them. Notes floated through the air like gentle reminders. The group moved together, quietly connected. No one rushed. No one strayed. They were going home. Light shimmered in every direction. AKA smiled, gripping Alpha's hand. The road ahead no longer scared her. Behind them, their small world watched with care, music guiding every shared step. Voices joined the song, old, familiar ones. Friends and memories appeared in the light. The journey wasn't over, but loneliness was. AKA looked up. Together, they walked towards something warm and waiting. They floated gently through light. AKA's name echoed softly. The world turned upside down, then settled. When they opened their eyes again, everything was still. They had made it back. Alpha held AKA close. The tree, the swings, the song, it all faded like a morning haze. They were home, surrounded by quiet air, and the soft steps of a cat. Alpha woke up startled, confused. The dream lingered, slipping away like mist. She reached for it, but couldn't hold on. Somewhere nearby, someone else awoke too. Equally unsure, yet quietly changed. AKA stirred in bed, unable to recall the dream. But something inside felt lighter. Alpha reassured her. Even if memories faded, what mattered had already settled in their hearts. Alpha smiled and called her promise back, the anti-loneliness unit. AKA listened. It felt real. The warmth in her chest told her she didn't need to remember everything. Just believe. The sun rose above Aqua's shimmering waters. Alpha opened the window wide. A new day had begun. She greeted it boldly, arms open. The past held them. The future waited. Morning arrived. AKA leaned out from the balcony and called to the city below. The journey had ended. But a new day had begun. She smiled, ready for everything ahead. Kurosha returned to the manor, now beloved by the children and honored as mascot. The girls watched quietly, unsure how to react to the sudden popularity of their old friend. AKA sat with crossed arms, watching the cheerful welcome. The other two settled in easily beside Kurosha, unaware of her feelings. Their reunion began, clumsy but full of noisy warmth. That night, they were assigned adjoining rooms. The balcony felt smaller with them all together. AKA sighed. Change had arrived, but deep down, she knew it would bring them closer. Late at night, Yurin quietly left the room, carrying her cat. Her expression was firm. Without saying goodbye, she slipped into the hall, determined to return home on her own. Verdi noticed her absence and raised the alarm. They scattered in confusion. Yuran wandered the manor's twisting halls, unaware of the worry behind her. The place turned into a maze. Verdi blocked Yuran's way, arms outstretched. Her tiny figure stood firm. Yuran paused, unsure. For a moment, tension rose then softened. No words were said, but something quietly shifted between them. Verdi took charge, dragging AKA's plush doll forward with purpose. The tension between the girls softened. Neither stepped back, but something unspoken lingered, waiting for a nudge to resolve. Nodoka gently intervened, coaxing honesty from them. Yuran clutched the toy as her confidence faltered. AKA hesitated too. The balcony below offered no answers, just the quiet pull of unresolved feelings. Cyan arrived, sensing the trouble. As Yuran tearfully spoke of her missing family, realization spread. It wasn't defiance or drama, just homesickness, plain and deep. The mood shifted into quiet understanding. Yuran wandered outside, her thoughts drifting to last night. The silence felt heavier without her father's goodnight. Her steps were slow, her mind circling around the absence she couldn't fill. She admitted what none of them wanted to say aloud. It wasn't easy. Each missed someone. Familiar routines were gone. Homesickness came quietly but stayed stubborn, clinging to every moment. Cyan pieced it together. Their sadness wasn't just about leaving, it was about what had been left behind. Gino cried too. He knew before anyone that this change would hurt. Yuran sat quietly, her emotions surfacing in small waves. Remembering her parents' sad faces, she finally recognized how much she missed them. A soft ache replaced the frustration she'd carried. Cyan listened and guided her gently. She helped Yuran understand. Missing home meant it mattered. realizing that made the pain valid, not something to ignore, but something to grow through. The moment settled warmly. Yuran began to accept her feelings. Down the hall, the others waited. Reunited by honesty, they watched with quiet hope, ready to face their days together. Later, Gino reflected on their growth. He hoped they'd speak honestly next time. He watched from afar, proud. In their small steps he saw a quiet maturity forming. AKA nodded slowly, standing with new resolve. Maybe she had changed. The others watched, unsure but supportive. Her quiet realization marked a shift, small, but real. She was no longer unsure. With laughter and cheers, the three marched forward. Homesickness faded behind them. School awaited. Even Gino found peace in his routine. Together, they had each grown in their own way. The girls gathered around Cyan, offering thanks. Their faces were calm, their voices light. The problem had passed. With relief behind them, their pace returned to normal, brisk and steady. They walked ahead as teachers lingered. The girls had changed, just a little. Whether their growth would finish first or the bell tower, would it no longer truly mattered. The plaza opened wide. Airships glided overhead. With feet on stone and eyes on the sky, they stepped forward. The path was open. They were ready, steady, go. As the teachers walked, the black cat quietly followed. A pause. Then a determined voice rose behind them. He wanted to be part of it too, not left behind. He stood proud and serious. He would grow too, a guardian worthy of guiding others. The adults smiled. The moment was small, but something about it felt sincerely hopeful. The street opened ahead. Wings flapped above. The path widened. With smiles and quiet understanding, they continued. No one walked alone now. Every step was a step forward, together. Every morning, the manor staff prepared a generous breakfast for the students. Amid towering baskets and careful arrangements, AKA helped Cyan lay out food, ensuring everyone could reach what they needed. Students filed in with trays, some stacked too much, others showed balance. Nodoka refilled dishes, reminding AKA to serve enough for Kurocha too. The dining hall buzzed with comforting routine. Sho approached late, scanning the table. No rice, only bread remained. He sighed, disappointed, clutching an empty bowl. Without rice, his morning felt incomplete, but he quietly accepted what was left. At breakfast, Kurocha shouted her choice with intense passion. Her classmates stared in silence, confused. Sho noticed she had been speaking to no one. The moment passed without clear answers. Curious, Sho watched her sit outside, alone yet strangely content. Yuran joined, concerned about the chill, but Kurocha insisted. Everyone soon followed, trays in hand, drawn by the inviting breeze. The group settled on the terrace, warmed by sunlight and laughter. Birds soared above. Food was shared freely, and smiles grew wide. Together, they welcomed another peaceful, perfect morning. The entrance ceremony began in the grand hall, ornate ceilings towering above. Students stood in neat rows, small and solemn, awaiting their turn to be welcomed into this new chapter together. Applause filled the room as each child was introduced. Some beamed with pride, others froze nervously. Kurocha clapped quietly, observing the scene with wide eyes as curiosity began to grow. When the doors opened, the students rushed outside. Pigeons scattered into the air. Kurocha paused, staring upward in awe, already dreaming of the stories this place would help her create. AKA clapped with joy, but soon noticed two friends had vanished. Confused, she wandered through the courtyard searching for them. Sho spotted her alone and realized she might be lost. Though flustered, AKA insisted she was fine. Sho offered hopeful words. She nodded, wiping her face, trusting she'd reunite soon. Sho watched her quietly, still unsure about her strange behavior. Sho followed her uncertain steps. Teachers nearby explained she spoke to an imaginary friend. Sho blinked, surprised until now. He didn't know such invisible companions could feel so convincingly real. AKA walked in circles, unsure where to go. Her imaginary companion gave vague advice, adding to her confusion. Sho lost patience, shouting in frustration, his voice echoing through the courtyard. Sho questioned her odd gestures, baffled by her behavior. Nearby, Yuran and another girl spotted the commotion. They recognized AKA and quickly hurried over, worried she had truly gotten lost. Yuran explained the situation, trying to stay calm. Her friend was less patient, panicked about imaginary talk sounding like ghost stories. Meanwhile, a small crowd gathered, mistaking it for a fight. Sho lashed out, demanding attention. Verdi stopped him just in time. AKA flinched, unsure what to do. The tension startled everyone nearby, drawing the eyes of students across the courtyard. Sho stood frozen, face stern. aka gently grabbed his sleeve, shaking it repeatedly. Her small action softened the mood. The watching crowd slowly relaxed, uncertain what this strange interaction meant. With lowered eyes, aka explained softly, yelling scared her. Sho hesitated, then adjusted his tone. He asked again, calmer this time. She looked up, hopeful, ready to try talking again without fear. Sho promised to speak gently if aka truly listened. She nodded earnestly, determined to understand. Around them, the stone plaza stretched wide, echoing the first signs of a fragile understanding. Aka encouraged him to speak. Sho hesitated as everyone watched. He turned red, overwhelmed by attention, then suddenly bolted, fleeing the scene before saying a single word. Startled, aka blinked as he vanished into the crowd. The others sighed, confused by his retreat. Though the moment passed awkwardly, something had shifted, small progress hidden in a runaway heart. Aka admitted the conversation didn't go well. She struggled with anger and raised voices, just like her friends. They listened quietly, understanding her discomfort, sharing their own hidden fears too. Her friends praised her efforts. Aka had tried her best to understand Sho. Though things were awkward, her willingness mattered most. Encouraged, she smiled, proud of how far she'd come. With the ceremony now behind them, the three girls walked forward, united, braver, and closer than before. A new chapter awaited, built on empathy, small steps, and the strength of friendship. The students entered their first classroom, hearts fluttering with nervous excitement. Today marked the beginning of real lessons, and each child stepped forward, ready to introduce themselves to the unknown. Verdi introduced herself politely. Yuran, brimming with energy, added flair to her name. The class reacted with mixed expressions, some impressed, others confused. Personalities sparkled as the room came alive. iOS introduced himself with blunt simplicity. A tense silence followed. Yuran broke it with loud bravado. Aka and others sat quietly, overwhelmed. The first lesson hadn't started, but Bonds already had. Aka clarified her name firmly, no nicknames. iOS offered his formal name, Alpha, but shrugged it off. Everyone wanted to sound grown-up, but they all still carried a childlike awkwardness. They filled out introduction cards, writing goals and dreams. Yuran boasted strength. Aka admitted her immaturity with a blush. Through scribbled wishes, each student revealed something quietly honest about themselves. The teacher collected the cards, promising to display them. Io smirked at his own paper. As sunlight filled the classroom, a sense of belonging slowly settled over the new students. After class, Yuran excitedly recapped the day to Nodoka-sensei and the black cat. The hallway grew quiet as the breeze passed through, wrapping the teacher in calm after the day's chaos. Nodoka listened patiently, amused and touched. The children were all so different, yet full of promise. She smiled, realizing just how lively and unpredictable every coming day would be. Later, the introduction cards remained displayed, hopes, flaws, and dreams on paper. Among them, iOS's quiet honesty stood out. Nothing flashy, just real. School had begun, and so had everything else. Nodoka sat beside her friends, sunlight filtering through the cafe awning. They discussed the girls' progress in Neo Venezia. A black cat quietly listened, perched like a silent guardian. They shared observations about AKA's habits, her fondness for plush toys, and how well she adapted. Nodoka's thoughts wandered, quietly reflecting on the strange warmth this place had given her. As the group stood to part ways, Nodoka felt something lift from her chest. The memories of her former life faded, replaced by calm. Neo Venezia had truly become home. Nodoka stepped into the streets, her coat swaying with each stride. The girls' laughter trailed behind. She promised herself to be more careful, not wanting to startle AKA again. The black cat watched from a distance as she crossed the bridge. AKA spotted her first, face lighting up in recognition. A quiet moment passed before the chase began. Kurocha stirred, startled. The girls raced after Nodoka, giggling and shouting. She turned briefly, smiling, then dashed ahead, teasing them with her speed. Neo Venezia echoed with their chasing footsteps. Nodoka darted through sunlit alleys, her coat fluttering like a ribbon. AKA followed with determination, tiny boots pattering against stone. The city's golden light shimmered along the silent canal, winding paths twisted around her, and AKA hesitated. She glanced left, then right. The footsteps ahead had vanished. Shadows deepened between buildings. She clenched her fists and pushed onward. From above, Nodoka peeked between rooftops, quietly amused. AKA's voice echoed below, calling for Miss Bafana. Kurocha watched from a ledge, tail swaying. The game was still going strong. AKA called out across the stone bridge, her voice growing uncertain. Nodoka stood above, watching. The child's search slowed. Shadows shifted. The silence between them stretched a little too long. AKA circled the garden plaza. Her pace wavered. Nodoka hesitated from the ledge, her fingers clenching. She spotted the small figure below. Kurosha appeared quietly, sensing the change in mood. Nodoka stepped down as AKA looked up. The girl reached forward, eyes wide and vulnerable. Nodoka froze, then softened. The chase had ended. What remained was something gentler, something much needed. AKA clutched her plush tightly and climbed the steps. Nodoka remained still, watching. The child buried her face in soft fabric, her tiny body leaning forward for comfort. Later, by the water, Nodoka reflected aloud. She wondered if Aka's love for stuffed dolls revealed something unspoken, an echo of loneliness that soft textures helped to soothe. Laughter returned with a surprise slide. AKA's joy surfaced again. Nodoka watched from the steps, thoughtful but smiling. Perhaps healing came in small doses, disguised as childish delight. A group of plush toys slid down the stairs, bumping to a stop near Nodoka's feet. She paused, puzzled, as if the dolls themselves had come to speak. One final plush arrived with AKA tumbling after it. Nodoka stepped forward, but the child slipped. For a moment, the world held still. She moved without thinking, arms instinctively reaching. With a swift motion, Nodoka caught her mid-fall. Her coat swirled as she crouched, holding AKA close. The child gripped the plush tightly. Both stayed quiet, their hearts steadying. Nodoka crouched low, heart pounding. She was overwhelmed not from the fall, but from the sudden closeness. AKA giggled nearby, declaring victory. Nodoka smiled, shaken but grounded again. They teased one another as the tension faded. Nodoka hugged AKA gently, reassured by the child's warmth. Their playful chase had ended, but a quiet trust had grown. By the water's edge, Nodoka stood still. AKA's weight rested softly in her arms. The sun dipped low, casting gentle reflections. It was a still moment, full of peace. Hand in hand, they walked together under soft sunlight. Nodoka asked if AKA had grown used to this life. The child nodded confidently, skipping lightly in the warmth. AKA listed all her companions' plushies, friends, and the ever-watchful Kurosha. Her words were cheerful but meaningful. Nodoka listened quietly, the weight of doubt easing with every name spoken. They bounced onward, steps matching. Nodoka glanced at AKA's bright face and smiled. Whatever sadness had once lingered, it had faded. AKA was no longer alone. And neither was she. As the clock tower chimed above, AKA questioned why Nodoka ran. Nodoka hesitated, then explained, "Her identity must remain hidden." AKA nodded solemnly, suddenly understanding the weight of secrets. They walked beneath quiet balconies, voices lowered. Flowers swayed as they passed. Nodoka confirmed it gently. It was a secret hers to guard, theirs to share, and no one else's. With a grin, Nodoka called it their little secret. AKA's eyes lit up, her heart full. They smiled together, bound by trust, holding a moment only they would ever know. Along the canal, the afternoon light shimmered. A whisper lingered in the air, a little gossip just between them. The city held their secret quietly, like so many before. The peace was soon broken by excited voices. AKA's friends and Kurosha turned a corner. Their eyes lit up as they spotted her, the game rekindled with joy. Laughter echoed through the narrow streets. Nodoka turned and ran ahead again, footsteps playful. AKA and the others followed. The chase had begun anew, but now with hearts fully open. Jing adjusted his tie with trembling fingers. The letter had arrived today was Parents' Day. Memories surged. He left the kitchen, determined to join the others at the sky dock. He boarded quietly, clutching the message. The empty seats whispered doubt. Then he remembered the promise. Someone would come. He stood, hesitant, as footsteps and a grin approached behind. A large cat and young girl greeted him. The cat reached out calmly. Jing stepped forward, heart pounding. Smiling softly, the girl watched as the journey finally began together. The floating city stretched skyward. Jing walked beside the girl and cat, quietly observing the blend of old stones and new dreams forming the heart of this slowly awakening place. They passed narrow alleys and sunlit windows. Each step carried echoes of stories unfinished. Jing listened as the girl spoke with wonder. History lingered in the walls like softened whispers. He paused, remembering his absence at the ceremony. The cat had stepped in. Regret flickered, but the girl's warm smile eased it. Neo Venezia welcomed him still, no words needed. Cheers greeted Jing. Familiar faces welcomed him, easing his nerves. The girl glanced back fondly, and the path ahead felt lighter. A quiet joy settled beneath his formal composure. She stepped aside gently, giving him space. He lingered near the line of guardians, uncertain. Others stepped back too. For a moment, everything paused in warmth and careful silence. Jing hesitated, unsure of his place. But her words struck deep. He was family, even without title. His heart stirred, humbled by recognition, as her eyes filled with grateful surprise. Overwhelmed, Jing wiped his glasses as emotions swelled. The girl smiled, pulling him forward. Around them, classmates laughed and teachers gathered. He stood among them now, no longer apart, but included. Children leaned close, learning about the water's rhythm. Jing watched silently. Life clung to wood and stone, creating cycles of nurture. Small voices echoed curiosity. He finally listened without retreat. The open-air classroom thrived with cheerful noise. Jing spotted parents nearby, watching quietly from bridges. He stood back too, heart steady. Today he was here not just as a guardian, but present. The teacher ran with flair, rallying laughter from the children. Jing stood nearby, watching. Around him, smiles bloomed. For once, joy didn't feel distant. It wrapped around him like sunlight. As the little girl sat quietly, unnoticed, Jing's gaze grew firm. Worry shadowed his face, but kindness lingered behind it. The others stepped back, trusting him to reach her gently. Jing approached slowly. The girl's hands gripped her board tightly. His steps were uncertain, but steady. Without a word, presence alone bridged the silence. Some bonds speak loudest without sound. The children giggled, then wandered off in formation. The adults watched in confusion. Jing scanned the crowd. One small presence was missing. Worry flickered quietly behind his glasses once again. Jing found her seated with the others at a quiet cafe. The black cat sat calmly. The wind passed through gently as stillness settled. She looked up, expectantly. He froze, unsure. Was she distant? Annoyed? The parfait stood untouched. The cat munched beside him. A soft comment eased his thoughts. She still cherished him. Maybe more than he realized. Jing sat, unsure. Maybe she was upset about the ceremony. The parfait remained untouched. The cat ate in silence while his thoughts churned with quiet concern and gentle guilt. He promised to ask her subtly, of course. The others watched nearby, their eyes hopeful. The parfait sparkled between them, but her silence still lingered like an unanswered question. Then she stood alone. Her eyes searched, heart full. Jing stepped forward slowly. No words yet, but the distance between them, physical and emotional, began to dissolve beneath the open sky. The others gently explained Jing's absence, aka listened, head low. She had looked for him that day, unable to stop herself. Her quiet nod said more than any complaint could. She admitted it. Had he been there, she would have cried. Jing sat silently across the table, unaware, but her choice to run came from care, not anger or disappointment. As she approached again, her eyes held thoughtfulness. She had realized something during the entrance ceremony. Her steps were soft, but her heart carried a truth ready to be shared. AKA slowly approached the table, thoughts now clearer. She explained her own reaction. It wasn't just sadness, it was fear of attachment, of parting again. She had simply acted first. As her voice trembled, Nodoka panicked, rushing to help. The others looked to each other. Someone had to lighten the moment. The cat continued eating, calm amid the tension. The anti-loneliness unit reformed. Plans sparked, roles were reassigned. They would protect her heart, especially when Jing returned to Onabori. And this time, she wouldn't be left crying alone. Nodoka knelt and gently proposed the idea. AKA could write letters too. Her words could reach him. AKA's eyes widened at the thought. It wasn't just communication, it was connection. AKA listened, then asked carefully. Would it really mean they'd be together, even apart? Her heart fluttered with hope. Nodoka's answer was simple, but clear. She would never be alone. Jing swept AKA up with a smile. The promise was sealed. Letters would bridge the time apart. Everyone nearby cheered. Their bond, unshaken, would continue through words, through time, always. AKA clung to hope. Jing promised to write back. She asked to officially join the anti-loneliness unit. With a quiet nod, her place in their hearts became unshakably hers. Jing lifted her, laughter surrounding them. The team had grown, now stronger. The cat observed proudly. Together, they walked forward, no longer fearing distance. Their bond would stay stitched by words. Later, in a quiet room, AKA typed her first letter. Her words were simple, her joy honest. It wasn't just writing, it was connection. And it would never stop. AKA finished her letter, her thoughts finally at ease. She believed in their promise. The cat sat beside her. Quiet, across the distance, her message waited to be read. Gino leaned back, letter in hand. Her words had reached him. He whispered his reply into the quiet night, knowing she'd hear. Their bond remained, steady across time and place. Tourists crowded the grand stone bridges as a local reporter prepared her segment. In the narrow canals below, quiet gondolas waited. One girl watched curiously, drawn by an unfamiliar anticipation. A rare gondola had arrived, said to be a gift from faraway lands. Children gathered at the canal's edge. The girl stood at the front, eyes fixed on it. Though no one could row it now, admiration filled the street. The gondola stood still, like a memory. The girl quietly imagined herself gliding through water, a new dream born. Curiosity drove Liren to sneak closer, but her bold step was stopped mid-air. The older girl, calm and strong, lifted her easily, reminding her of rules not yet broken. Night fell. Liren waited for silence, then crept through the quiet manor. Her steps echoed softly. The gondola lingered in her thoughts, its mystery now tethered to her will. Reaching the hall, she was intercepted by two plush-like guardians. Though they posed like soldiers, Liren rushed past them. Her plan wasn't over. She just had to try. Liren burst with defiance, dragging the others into her plan. Her words stirred more than annoyance, they sparked challenge. The group followed reluctantly, pulled forward by her stubborn resolve and quiet excitement. At the gondola's edge, they found her waiting. The night breeze carried her silent invitation. No scolding came, just a glance soft but knowing that said she believed in them. Without a word, she climbed aboard. The others joined, rules softened, not broken, as she promised restraint. But in their hearts, every gentle push meant one step closer to real adventure. To everyone's shock, AKA was already aboard, resting calmly beside the gondola's prow. No one noticed Kurocha either. The boat, once silent, now brimmed with quiet life and wonder. They stepped on one by one. The gondola rocked, uncertain but welcoming. Smiles replaced doubt. Even hesitant ones found comfort in the stillness as the night whispered through calm waters. Snug and speechless, the children leaned together. Moonlight framed their silhouettes. With Kurocha perched above, the gondola creaked forward, gently carrying them all into a night they would remember forever. The gondola creaked through shadowed water. Nerves crept in as silence thickened. Each bump or wobble stirred whispers. Yet together, they stayed still, drawn forward by something deeper than fear. Verdi lit a soft lantern, calming the boat's mood. Darkness gave way to glow. From her bag, she revealed drinks. Comfort replaced anxiety as the gondola eased through calm current. She poured with care, hands steady, voice gentle. Her gesture wasn't loud, but it filled the boat. In that moment, rules felt distant, replaced by thoughtfulness, warmth, and quiet courage. Liren grinned and pulled out hidden snacks. Pride sparkled in her eyes as she shared them. Banter spread among them, light teasing, soft laughter. The night air grew a little warmer. Even those who forgot to bring anything found comfort in each other's kindness. No one felt left out. Instead, the moment became shared, not through gifts but the care behind them. Under soft lantern light, they gathered close. Hot chocolate warmed their hands, but their closeness warmed something deeper. From above, Kurocha watched, unmoving, as a small group became something whole. A gentle shift signaled the start of something quiet. The lantern dimmed, and the group paused. In the dark, their closeness became clearer. No words, just shared breath and steady stillness. Suddenly, stars flooded their vision. The ceiling vanished. The sky opened wide. Gasps filled the gondola as the world inverted, shimmering like dreams. They were drifting beneath a sky of wonder. Venice glowed upside down, floating over space and stars. Kurocha steered without sound. The city became memory, the moment eternal. For a while longer, they floated not home yet, but completely together. The gondola floated quietly in open space. City lights shimmered upside down. Liren declared it a perfect adventure. Their eyes widened not from fear but from a sense of shared awe. One by one, their faces lit up. Even Kurocha remained still, perhaps watching over them. Every expression reflected wonder. They didn't need to speak, they simply belonged in this moment. A sudden jolt shook them, gentle but real. The rope had slipped. Gasps turned to silence, then laughter. Then wonder again, because even adrift, the lights were still so incredibly beautiful. Verdi spotted the oar just in time. With determination, they all took turns trying. Effort turned to struggle, but laughter rose too. The gondola rocked with their chaotic teamwork. Liren stood tall, shouting like a sailor, determined to row. The others joined in, no rhythm, no skill, just wild energy and hope. The gondola turned, barely, under pure force of will. Their shouting startled Kurocha, who stepped in. One lick, one taste, and he recoiled. Salty, he seemed to say. The boat swayed but somehow stayed afloat, as chaos turned back to calm. As a strange drone descended, the kids froze. Kurosha shielded them instinctively. They huddled, uncertain, while the mechanical visitor blinked silently. A new twist, and no clear way out. Relief arrived. The drone was a rescue, not a threat. It guided them home with quiet efficiency. Their once-adrifted gondola glided through the stars, returning like nothing had gone wrong. They returned to scolding, apologies, and nervous explanations. But laughter lingered. What began as rebellion ended in wonder. One by one, they smiled because that night had truly been theirs. Tears welled up in Liren's eyes. She had wanted so badly to row. Her heart was full, but her arms were small. Still, the desire hadn't been pretend, Cyan explained gently. The gondola's tradition was long gone, its purpose preserved only in spirit. The path back wouldn't be easy, but the dreams still mattered to those who remembered. Liren stood again, not denying the past, but defying its silence. If the torch was gone, maybe it could still be reignited, because dreams, once real, never vanish completely. Liren made her vow clear. One day, she'd row the gondola herself. Her eyes gleamed with certainty, not pride, not rebellion, but the kind of hope that dares to reach. Cyan smiled gently. She saw not a reckless child, but a flame. A lone candle, unwavering, ready to shine even when history had long gone quiet. Because even traditions lost in time, thousands of lights once extinguished can be relit by one small, burning heart. And that night, a promise stirred beneath the stars, ready to rise again. With tears and resolve, Liren shouted her promise to the sky. Around her, smiles bloomed. Not because she succeeded yet, but because she dared to try, and meant every word. Their small voices echoed down the canal, joining centuries of silence. A new chapter stirred not just in history, but in the hearts of those willing to reignite forgotten lights. And so it was clear, the future of this town, this story glowed bright. A future crafted by children who dared to care. One worthy of an A+, without a doubt.